country. Done. And I am not talking about your tea.
Lanka tiles, the Sri Lankan tile with a global following.
This is one way of showing convenience, and My SLT is just another name for convenience. Services here, there, and everywhere. Now brought onto My SLT. Access all of SLT Mobitel services through one app. SLT Mobitel, the connection.
You should be proud of your country, where the richest offerings of nature are turned into a finer form through pure craftsmanship. And I'm not talking about the sapphire on my ring.
Lanka tiles, the Sri Lankan tile with a global following.
මේ පහසුව පෙන්වන එක විදිහ. MySLT app කියන්නේ පහසුවට කියන තවත් නම. අතන මෙතන හැමතැනම තියෙන සේවාවන් එක තැනකට ගෙන MySLT app. දැන් සියලුම SLT Mobitel සේවාවන් වලට MySLT app හරහා එකවර පිවිසීමේ හැකියාව. SLT Mobitel එකම එක සැබඳියාව.
On occasion, when it's cold here in winter, even a good fire isn't enough to make you feel warm. Sometimes you need to bring in a little spice. And I'm not talking about your cinnamon.
Lanka tiles, the Sri Lankan tile with a global following.
இது வசதியை காட்டுற விதம். MySLT appனா வசதிதான். MySLT app மூலம் அங்கும் இங்கும் எங்கும் இருக்கும் அனைத்து SLT Mobitel சேவைகளையும் தற்போது ஓரிடத்தில் பெற்றிட ஒரே தடவை பிரவேசியுங்கள். SLT Mobitel நிகரற்ற இணைப்பு.
What makes a nation great? Is it the richness of its heritage, the beauty of its natural bounty, the state of its state-of-the-art, or is it the bonds that bind us? For decades, SLT Mobitel has been linking Sri Lankan lives and uniting the nation. Whatever the future may look like, we'll always be right here, connecting you to the things you care most about. SLT Mobitel, the connection. What makes a nation great? Is it the richness of its heritage, the beauty of its natural bounty, the state of its state-of-the-art, or is it the bonds that bind us? For decades, SLT Mobitel has been linking Sri Lankan lives and uniting the nation. Whatever the future may look like, we'll always be right here, connecting you to the things you care most about. SLT Mobitel, the connection. The connection.
There's a thing from your country that I'm totally hooked on. And I am not talking about your tea.
Lanka tiles, the Sri Lankan tile with a global following.
This is one way of showing convenience, and My SLT is just another name for convenience. Services here, there, and everywhere. Now brought onto My SLT. Access all of SLT Mobitel services through one app. SLT Mobitel, the connection.
You should be proud of your country, where the richest offerings of nature are turned into a finer form through pure craftsmanship. And I'm not talking about the sapphire on my ring.
Lanka tiles, the Sri Lankan tile with a global following.
මේ පහසුව පෙන්වන එක විදිය. MySLT app කියන්නේ පහසුවට කියන තවත් නම. අතන මෙතන හැමතැනම තියෙන සේවාවන් එක තැනකට ගෙන MySLT app දැන් සියලුම SLT මොබිටෙල් සේවාවන් වලට MySLT app හරහා එකවර පිවිසීමේ හැකියාව. SLT මොබිටෙල් එකම එක සැබඳියාව.
On occasion, when it's cold here in winter, even a good fire isn't enough to make you feel warm. Sometimes you need to bring in a little spice. And I'm not talking about your cinnamon.
Lanka tiles, the Sri Lankan tile with a global following.
இது வசதிய காட்டுற விதம். YSLT appனா வசதிதான். YSLT app மூலம் அங்கும் இங்கும் எங்கும் இருக்கும் அனைத்து SLT மொபிட்டல் சேவைகளையும் தற்போது ஓரிடத்தில் பெற்றிட ஒரே தடவை பிரவேசியுங்கள். SLT மொபிட்டல் நிகரற்ற இணைப்பு.
What makes a nation great? Is it the richness of its heritage, the beauty of its natural bounty, the state of its state-of-the-art, or is it the bonds that bind us? For decades, SLT Mobitel has been linking Sri Lankan lives and uniting the nation. Whatever the future may look like, we'll always be right here, connecting you to the things you care most about. SLT Mobitel, the connection.
The story of the Chartered Institute of Personal Management spans over 60 years and is a tale of trials, tribulations, and triumphs. From its humble beginnings in 1959 by a group of professionals who envisaged the power of people profession in the local and global context and who refused to be told what to do and what cannot be done. Today, those seeds have grown into a center of excellence for people management professionals. With a member base of 1,500, which is ever growing, including chartered fellows, chartered members, honorary members, associates and affiliates, CIPM takes pride of place among other professional bodies in the country as one of the elite institutes representing the people profession.
As a professional institution, CIPM Sri Lanka has been established by an Act of Parliament, and it has been designed and structured to deliver core values and objectives in the field of human resource management in this country. All the professionals of this institute have been groomed and developed as leaders to practice human resource management in public and private sector organizations in producing unconventional results. I invite all young practitioners join CIPM Sri Lanka and start acquiring new techniques, best practices, and advanced principles in people management to become great leaders.
The business school arm remains the most prominent among all facilities of CIPM, with a student population of around 10,000 annually. A panel of industry and academic experts who serve on the lecturing panels and affiliations with many international universities and professional bodies. CIPM has earned a name as the epitome in the studies on people management in Sri Lanka. CIPM, with its research arm and the consultancy, seminars and workshops, is also geared with state-of-the-art modern facilities for members to conduct applied researches and publications, as well as to provide related services to the industry. CIPM's ethos remains to facilitate the local fraternity while ensuring that the importance and multifaceted aspect of people profession is made available to all connected with people management. In this endeavor, many events dot the CIPM annual calendar, which includes the National HR Conference, the Great HR Quiz, the Great HR Debate, the Great HR Symposium, the Great HR Practices, the Great HR Walk, and the star-studded CIPM graduation ceremony, and more. There are many reasons why people enroll at CIPM. Here are just a few. By becoming a CIPM qualified professional, you will get full recognition of your skills in the world of work. What's more, you can increase your earning potential by as much as 75%. You will enhance your CV, giving you that much needed job security and increase your job prospects. There are many courses that are conducted by the CIPM Business School for you to choose from. CIPM regional centers are strategically placed at important economic hubs of the country, such as Kandy, Galle, Kurunegala, Gambaha and Negombo. And more will be established at such strategic locations in time to come to bring the profession to all four corners of the country. CIPM has always prided itself with its membership, governed by an executive council consisting of industry experts, seasoned professionals and academics, which have carried a legacy in the profession through the decades. CIPM has over the years cultivated strong relationships in order to ensure that the industry best practices are adopted at all levels. Its long-standing affiliation with Asia-Pacific Foundation of Human Resources Management, World Federation of People Management Associations, and Organization of Professional Associations of Sri Lanka are proof of this. CIPM has enhanced the vistas of the people profession in Sri Lanka and has gone beyond the geographic boundaries in conquering the region and embarked upon the elaborate journey true to its vision with a chartered status, and also by hosting the World HR Congress 2020 in Colombo, Sri Lanka, which is a historic landmark for CIPM and will pave us the way to go global. CIPM Sri Lanka.
You should be proud of your country, where the richest offerings of nature are turned into a finer form through pure craftsmanship. And I'm not talking about the sapphire on my ring.
Lanka tiles, the Sri Lankan tile with a global following.
This is one way of showing convenience, and my SLT is just another name for convenience. Services here, there, and everywhere. Now brought onto my SLT. Access all of SLT Mobitel services through one app. SLT Mobitel, the connection.
The story of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management spans over 60 years and is a tale of trials, tribulations, and triumphs. From its humble beginnings in 1959 by a group of professionals who envisaged the power of people profession in the local and global context and who refused to be told what to do and what cannot be done. Today, those seeds have grown into a center of excellence for people management professionals. With a member base of 1,500, which is ever growing, including chartered fellows, chartered members, honorary members, associates and affiliates, CIPM takes pride of place among other professional bodies in the country as one of the elite institutes representing the people profession.
As a professional institution, CIPM Sri Lanka has been established
The story of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management spans over 60 years and is a tale of trials, tribulations, and triumphs. From its humble beginnings in 1959 by a group of professionals who envisaged the power of people profession in the local and global context and who refused to be told what to do and what cannot be done. Today, those seeds have grown into a center of excellence for people management professionals. With a member base of 1,500, which is ever growing, including chartered fellows, chartered members, honorary members, associates and affiliates, CIPM takes pride of place among other professional bodies in the country as one of the elite institutes representing the people profession.
As a professional institution, CIPM Sri Lanka has been established by an Act of Parliament, and it has been designed and structured to deliver core values and objectives in the field of human resource management in this country. All the professionals of this institute have been groomed and developed as leaders to practice human resource management in public and private sector organizations in producing unconventional results. I invite all young practitioners join CIPM Sri Lanka and start acquiring new techniques, best practices, and advanced principles in people management to become great leaders.
The business school arm remains the most prominent among all facilities of CIPM, with a student population of around 10,000 annually. A panel of industry and academic experts who serve on the lecturing panels and affiliations with many international universities and professional bodies. CIPM has earned a name as the epitome in the studies on people management in Sri Lanka. CIPM, with its research arm and the consultancy, seminars and workshops, is also geared with state-of-the-art modern facilities for members to conduct applied researches and publications, as well as to provide related services to the industry. CIPM's ethos remains to facilitate the local fraternity while ensuring that the importance and multifaceted aspect of people profession is made available to all connected with people management. In this endeavor, many events dot the CIPM annual calendar, which includes the National HR Conference, the Great HR Quiz, the Great HR Debate, the Great HR Symposium, the Great HR Practices, the Great HR Walk, and the star-studded CIPM graduation ceremony, and more. There are many reasons why people enroll at CIPM. Here are just a few. By becoming a CIPM qualified professional, you will get full recognition of your skills in the world of work. What's more, you can increase your earning potential by as much as 75%. You will enhance your CV, giving you that much needed job security and increase your job prospects. There are many courses that are conducted by the CIPM Business School for you to choose from. CIPM regional centers are strategically placed at important economic hubs of the country, such as Kandy, Galle, Kurunegala, Gambaha, and Negombo, and more will be established at such strategic locations in time to come to bring the profession to all four corners of the country. CIPM has always prided itself with its membership, governed by an executive council consisting of industry experts, seasoned professionals and academics, which have carried a legacy in the profession through the decades. CIPM has over the years cultivated strong relationships in order to ensure that the industry best practices are adopted at all levels. Its long-standing affiliation with Asia-Pacific Foundation of Human Resources Management, World Federation of People Management Associations, and Organization of Professional Associations of Sri Lanka are proof of this. CIPM has enhanced the vistas of the people profession in Sri Lanka and has gone beyond the geographic boundary in conquering the region and embarked upon the elaborate journey true to its vision with a chartered status, and also by hosting the World HR Congress 2020 in Colombo, Sri Lanka, which is a historic landmark for CIPM and will pave us the way to go global. CIPM Sri Lanka.
There's a thing from your country that I'm totally hooked on, and I am not talking about your tea.
Tiles, the Sri Lankan tile with a global following.
This is one way of showing convenience, and my SLT is just another name for convenience. Services here, there, and everywhere. Now brought under my SLT. Access all of SLT Mobitel services through one app. SLT Mobitel, the connection.
You should be proud of your country, where the richest offerings of nature are turned into a finer form through pure craftsmanship. And I'm not talking about the sapphire on my ring.
Lanka Tiles, the Sri Lankan tile with a global following.
මේ පහසුව පෙන්වන එක විදිය. MySLT app කියන්නේ පහසුවට කියන තවත් නම. අතන මෙතන හැමතැනම තියෙන සේවාවන් එක තැනකට ගෙන MySLT app දැන් සියලුම SLT Mobitel සේවාවන් වලට MySLT app හරහා එකවර පිවිසීමේ හැකියාව. SLT Mobitel එකම එක සැබඳියාව.
On occasion, when it's cold here in winter, even a good fire isn't enough to make you feel warm. Sometimes you need to bring in a little spice. And I'm not talking about your cinnamon.
Lanka Tiles, the Sri Lankan tile.
What makes a nation great? Is it the richness of its heritage, the beauty of its natural bounty, the state of its state-of-the-art? Or is it the bonds that bind us? For decades, SLT Mobitel has been linking Sri Lankan lives and uniting the nation. Whatever the future may look like, we'll always be right here, connecting you to the things you care most about. SLT Mobitel, the connection.
There's a thing from your country that I'm totally hooked on. And I am not talking about your tea.
Lanka Tiles, the Sri Lankan tile with a global following.
This is one way of showing convenience, and my SLT is just another name for convenience. Services here, there, and everywhere. Now brought under my SLT. Access all of SLT Mobitel services through one app. SLT Mobitel, the connection.
The story of the Chartered Institute of Personal Management spans over 60 years and is a tale of trials, tribulations, and triumphs. From its humble beginnings in 1959 by a group of professionals who envisaged the power of people profession in the local and global context and who refused to be told what to do and what cannot be done. Today, those seeds have grown into a center of excellence for people management professionals. With a member base of 1,500, which is ever growing, including chartered fellows, chartered members, honorary members, associates and affiliates, CIPM takes pride of place among other professional bodies in the country as one of the elite institutes representing the people profession.
As a professional institution, CIPM Sri Lanka has been established by an Act of Parliament, and it has been designed and structured to deliver core values and objectives in the field of human resource management in this country. All the professionals of this institute have been groomed and developed as leaders to practice human resource management in public and private sector organizations in producing unconventional results. I invite all young practitioners join CIPM Sri Lanka and start acquiring new techniques, best practices, and advanced principles in people management to become great leaders.
The business school arm remains the most prominent among all facilities of CIPM, with a student population of around 10,000 annually. a panel of industry and academic experts who serve on the lecturing panels and affiliations with many international universities and professional bodies. CIPM has earned a name as the epitome in the studies on people management in Sri Lanka. CIPM, with its research arm and the consultancy, seminars and workshops, is also geared with state-of-the-art modern facilities for members to conduct applied researches and publications, as well as to provide related services to the industry. CIPM's ethos remains to facilitate the local fraternity while ensuring that the importance and multifaceted aspect of people profession is made available to all connected with people management. In this endeavor, many events dot the CIPM annual calendar, which includes the National HR Conference, the Great HR Quiz, the Great HR Debate, the Great HR Symposium, the Great HR Practices, the Great HR Walk, and the star-studded CIPM graduation ceremony, and more. There are many reasons why people enroll at CIPM. Here are just a few. By becoming a CIPM qualified professional, you will get full recognition of your skills in the world of work. What's more, you can increase your earning potential by as much as 75%. You will enhance your CV, giving you that much needed job security and increase your job prospects. There are many courses that are conducted by the CIPM Business School for you to choose from. CIPM regional centers are strategically placed at important economic hubs of the country, such as Kandy, Galle, Kurunegala, Gamage, and Negombo, and more will be established to bring the profession to all four corners of the country. CIPM has always prided itself with its membership, governed by an executive council consisting of industry experts, seasoned professionals, and academics, which have carried a legacy in the profession through the decades. CIPM has over the years cultivated strong relationships in order to ensure that the industry best practices are adopted at all levels. Its long-standing affiliation with Asia Pacific Foundation of Human Resources Management, World Federation of People Management Associations, and Organization of Professional Associations of Sri Lanka are proof of this. CIPM has enhanced the vistas of the people profession in Sri Lanka and has gone beyond the geographic boundaries in conquering the region and embarked upon the elaborate journey true to its vision with a chartered status, and also by hosting the World HR Congress 2020 in Colombo, Sri Lanka, which is a historic landmark for CIPM and will pave us the way to go global. CIPM Sri Lanka.
You should be proud of your country, where the richest offerings of nature are turned into a finer form through pure craftsmanship. And I'm not talking about the sapphire on my ring.
Lanka tiles, the Sri Lankan tile with a global following.
Aigwan, good morning, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, to our delegates, panelists, and invitees who are joining us virtually. We present a very warm welcome to the inauguration ceremony of the 5th CIPM International Research Symposium of the Human Resource Management 2021, organized by the Standing Committee on Applied Research and Knowledge Center. Ladies and gentlemen, global crises around the world is increasing. The pandemic has turned around in terms of transformation, in terms of numbers, in terms of jobs and occupation. People have seen the accelerated existing trends in remote work, e-commerce and automation, potentially needing to switch occupations. The jobs with the highest physical proximity are likely to be disrupted. Remote work and virtual meetings are likely to be continued, albeit less intensely than the pandemic's peak. AI is on the rise and it's bringing a complete transformation, and the mix of occupations may shift with a little job growth and wage occupations. Meanwhile, companies and policymakers have the huge challenge of how to facilitate the workforce transition. With all of this and much, much more, ladies and gentlemen, we warmly welcome you to the inauguration ceremony as we speak on the theme for today on the world crisis and future of work, with a fantastic set of panelists and delegates who are joining us to share some great insights, things that you can take back home and also work with your company. So I hope you're relaxed in wherever you are, as our delegates are all set here for you for today. Right at the outset, ladies and gentlemen, let me say hello and good morning to our chief guest, the Senior Professor Sampath Amaratunge, Chairman of the University of Grants Commission, will be joining us virtually. We also present a warm welcome to our keynote speaker, Dr. Akil Basrai. Thank you, sir, for joining us virtually as well. And now I have the real pleasure of inviting the following dignitaries to please join us here at the head table. My esteemed honor and privilege now to invite the President of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management Sri Lanka, the Deputy General Manager Human Resources of Ceylon Bank PLC, Mr. Jayantha Amarasinghe. We also would like to invite the Vice President of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management Sri Lanka, Director Human Resources of Water's Edge Hotels Limited, Mr. Ken Vijayakumar, Chairperson of the 5th CIPM International Research Symposium and Professor in Human Resources Management of the University of Kelaniya, Sri Lanka, Professor Prasadhini Gamage, and the Secretary of the 5th CIPM International Research Symposium, Head of the Academic Senior Lecturer, University of College of Mathura, Mr. Indika Kaluarachchige. Can I invite these dignitaries to please take their position at the head table? Thank you very much to our dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen. To formally begin our proceedings for today, can I invite you all to please rise for the national anthem, followed by the CIPM song.
Sri Lanka, Namo, 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 Mata. Sundar Siri Barini, Surendriya Kisogamana Lanka. Tanya Tanya Nekamal, Alaturu Biri Jaya Bhumiya Ramya. Apahata Sampa Siri Seta හද තුල භක්ති ඔබ අපලා ලෝකේ අපගේ අනුප්‍රාණේ ඔබ අප ජීවන වේ අප මුක්තිය ඔබ වේ නව ජීවන දෙදිනේ නිතින අප පුබුදු කරන් මාතා ඥාන වීර වඩවමින රැගෙන යනු ගැන ජය භූමි කරා එක මවකගේ දරු කැළඹවිනා යමු යමු වී නොප්‍රමා ප්‍රේම වඩා සැම වේද දුරලදා නමෝ නමෝ මාතා අප ශ්‍රී ලංකා නමෝ 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 මාතා මානව සම්පත අගතෙන්පත් කර සකල දේශයම ජය නදනම් වනු අභිමානයකින් ඉදිරියටම යන CIPM සැමදා මුරැඳෙන නව මුවාරකින් විවිධී සුපිපෙන සුහදව නිපිමිනි සත්කම් අගයන ව්‍යවසායකයින් රැජමෙන සිරිබිම් දියුණෙන් දියුණට පෙරමුණගෙන අද සාඩම්බරයෙන් සිහිපත් කර අපි සමරමු පැතියෙන් දිරිදෙන හැම නිති අනදිසේවයෙන් ලොවගෙන නාපි අදත් හෙටත් සැපදා රැජෙමු අපි CIPM name shall excel, flying a flag of splendor through our realm. Narum sirenda, narum selika, onrai sirenda, urepo namam. මානව සම්පත අගතෙන්පත් කර සකල දේශයම ජය නදනම් වනු අභිමානයකින් ඉදිරියටම යන CIPM සැමදා මුරැඳෙන අභිමානයකින් ඉදිරියටම යන CIPM සැමදා මුරැඳෙන
Thank you. Once again, a very good morning to all our virtual viewers who have joined us in at the 5th CIPM International Research Symposium Inauguration Ceremony. And to formally welcome you all this morning, I have the real pleasure of inviting the chairperson of the 5th CIPM International Research Symposium. Please give me a moment of your time to read out her profile. Professor Prasadhini Gamage is attached to the Department of Human Resource Management of the University of Kelaniya. Professor Gamage completed a PhD in HRM at the Management and Science University in Malaysia, following a BSc Business Administration special degree with first-class honors and MSc degree, both from the University of Sri Jabardanapura. In addition, she is an attorney at law at the Supreme Court of Sri Lanka. She's a recipient of several awards, such as the T. Singadore Scholarship for the Best Student, Vijayakumar Gold Medal for the highest marks obtained, awarded by the University of Sri Jabardanapura, an award for the best results obtained at the intermediate level of the Sri Lanka Law College, the Gold Medal in recognition for her contributions made to the human resource field by the Women in Management Institute of Sri Lanka, an award in academic excellence by the Management and Science University, Malaysia, and also the Most Outstanding Researchers Award for the year 2015 by the University of Kelaniya. Professor Gamage has over 25 years of teaching experience in undergraduate, postgraduate, PhD, and professional courses. She authored 5 textbooks and published more than 100 research papers in local and international journals. She presented her research work at many international and local conferences, including the University of Harvard, USA, and she has been performing as a member of the Governing Council of the CIPM. Also, she is an independent director of the Citizen Development Business Finance PLC and a dynamic personality, a hardworking personality who formulated this entire symposium with a fantastic team to bring out to you an exciting day. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the chairperson of the 5th CIPM International Research Symposium of the HRM 2021, Professor Prasadhini Gamage. Thank you, Sharon. A very good morning to all of you. Chief Guest Professor Sampath Amaratunge, Chairman, University Grants Commission, Sri Lanka. Mr.Jayantha Amarasinghe, President, Chartered Institute of Personal Management, Sri Lanka. Keynote Speaker, Dr. Akil Basrai, Chief Executive Officer, Akil Basrai, Consulting India, Mr. Crises, Chief Executive Officer, Chartered Institute of Personal Management, Sri Lanka. Dear ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Organizing Committee and the Standing Committee on Applied Research and Knowledge Center of the Chartered Institute of Personal Management, Sri Lanka, I warmly welcome all of you to the 5th CIPM International Research Symposium on Human Resource Management 2021, held as a virtual conference. This year's conference is held under a timely theme for the situation we are currently experiencing, namely global crisis and future of work. The global crisis that we are experiencing now, the COVID-19 pandemic, has forced us to meet via this online platform. At the outset itself, I must mention that we are organized this conference on an entirely virtual platform, adhering to all the health guidelines specified by the government of Sri Lanka. Now let me welcome all of you joining with us today, despite all these challenges. First and foremost, let me extend my warm welcome to the chief guest of this event, Senior Professor Sampath Amaratunge, the Chairman of the University Grants Commission, Sri Lanka. Sir, I am very much grateful to you for accepting our invitation to be the chief guest of this event despite your busy schedule. I also extend my warm welcome to our keynote speaker, Dr. Akil Basrai, Chief Executive Officer of Akil Basrai, Consulting India. It is a great privilege to have you here today. Dr. Busrai, we are eager to hear your words of wisdom at this important event. Next, let me warmly welcome the head of this prestigious institute, Mr.Jayantha Amarasinghe, the president of the Chartered Institute of Personal Management, Sri Lanka. If not for his extensive support, we would not be able to organize this kind of grand event today, even via the online platform. I take this opportunity to welcome Mr. Crises, Chief Executive Officer of CIPM, who supported us in numerous ways to make this event a reality.
I also extend my sincere welcome greetings to all the past presidents of the Institute and council members who are joining with us online. I warmly welcome our main sponsors of the event, Mr. Mahendra Jayasekara, Managing Director, Lanka Tiles Group, and Mr. Rohan Ellepola, Deputy Chief Marketing Officer of Sri Lanka Telecom Mobitel PLC. We are so grateful to you for your generous support to make this event a great success. Throughout the organizing of this event, each of you encouraged us in numerous ways, which is mentioned worthy here. One of the key features of this conference is the panel discussion organized under the conference's theme. Let me warmly welcome the panelists who agreed to participate in the panel discussion and share their experience with the HR fraternity. Namely, Professor Ajantha Dharmasiri, Professor in Management, Postgraduate Institute of Management, Sri Lanka, and also the past President of CIPM. Dr. Samitha Perera, CEO, Director, CBL Foods International, Sri Lanka, and also the past President of CIPM. Mr. Ken Vijayakumar, Director, Human Resources at Waters Edge Hotels Limited, and also the Vice President of CIPM, and Mr. Vajira Ellepola, Deputy Director General, Employees Federation of Ceylon, Sri Lanka. Your presence in this event adds greater glamour and value to the occasion. I wish also to welcome the moderator of the panel discussion, Dr. Samantha Rathnayake, faculty member, management consultant, Postgraduate Institute of Management, PIM, and also chartered member of CIPM Sri Lanka. Next, let me welcome the most crucial party who contributed to the success of this great event, the authors and the presenters of papers for the research conference. We received more than 70 number of papers and we sent them for double-blind review. We are grateful to all the 35 local and international reviewers who supported us here. All the papers were sent to academics with vast experience in reviewing research papers. They represent esteemed local and foreign universities and academic institutions. Upon the reviews, we selected 47 papers of number of papers presented by more than 90 researchers, and all of them are presented today via the virtual platform. While welcoming all the presenters and the authors present online today, I hope we have done a justification to all your intellectual work by publishing your full papers in the form of symposium proceedings as a printed publication including nearly 600 pages. Let me warmly welcome the corporate representatives joining us for the newly added feature of this conference, a case study presentation session. It is a session where 7 leading corporates will present the success stories of their corporate best HR practices during the COVID-19 pandemic. We have already published these case studies as a printed booklet, and we'll send copies to all our corporate members of CIPM very soon. I'll be failing in my duty if I don't extend my sincere greetings to the academics from local and international universities and the corporate sector who are joining us as track chairs for the 7 tracks under which the papers are presented. The presenters are looking forward to hearing your valuable comments on their intellectual contributions. Let me also welcome all the staff members of CIPM Sri Lanka who are joining with us here, and also members of the organizing committee of this event. If not for their support, this will not be a reality. Once again, let me extend my hearty welcome to everyone joining online, and I invite you to be with us till 5 p.m. for a great conference experience. Stay safe, everyone. Have a great day, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Gamage, for enlightening us and creating an excitement as to what our proceedings for today. Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to a very important juncture of today's inauguration ceremony. Can I invite our International Symposium Chair, Professor Prasadhini to please join us in front of the head table to present the symposium proceedings to the CIPM President, Mr. Jayantha Amarasinghe. So can I invite you in front of the head table as well? Ladies and gentlemen, this proceeding booking consists of 47 research papers and nearly 600 pages. All these papers will be presented today in the afternoon under technical sessions under 7 tracks. Can I invite you both to remain in your respective positions as I invite Mr. Indika Kaluarachchige, the International Symposium Secretary, to present the case study book consisting the success stories of both the private and state sector leading organizations during the pandemic. The success stories for you, ladies and gentlemen. And we have one more presentation, which will be done by the International Symposium Chair, Professor Prasadhini. This is the Human Resource Management Perspectives Research Journal, June 2021 version, published by the Standing Committee on the Applied Research and Knowledge Center of CIPM. And this is a biannual peer-reviewed open access journal, which herself, the editor, who is the editor-in-chief, that is Professor Prasadhini. And this will now be presented to the President, Mr. Jayantha Amarasinghe. That's a lot of workings being the editor-in-chief, and it is the research journal is being presented. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you to Professor Prasadhini as well. Ladies and gentlemen, now we have the address by the President of CIPM. Please give me a moment of your time to read out his profile as well. He currently serves as the Deputy General Manager of Ceylon Bank PLC, a key strategic role in which he performs as the Principal Architect of Human Resources, Strategy and Practices of the organization. With nearly 3 decades of leadership experience in delivering innovative and strategic people management practices across multiple industries and geographies, he has earned himself a reputation as an acclaimed and accomplished human resources thought leader with an unrelenting zeal to drive excellence. He has held the key HR leadership positions at renowned local and international organizations such as Singer Sri Lanka, Nations Trust Bank, and the global HR leadership role at the Doha Bank in Qatar, where he oversaw the HR function of 4 UAE countries. He's an attorney at law by profession and also holds a bachelor's degree in law from the University of Colombo and a master's in business administration from Buckinghamshire University, UK. He's a postgraduate diploma holder in management from Sri Lanka Institute of Marketing and holds a national diploma in human resources management from the Chartered Institute of Personal Management Sri Lanka, of which he is the Chartered Fellow member. He's also holds a postgraduate diploma in international relations from the Bandaranaike Center of International Studies as well. During his 20 years of committed association with the Chartered Institute of Personal Management Sri Lanka, he has professionally contributed to many CIPM strategic and operational critical endeavors. Currently holds the prestigious position of the CIPM President. Ladies and gentlemen, a gentleman who's no doubt thinking about human qualities and also how operations are well spearheaded. Please join me in welcoming the President of CIPM, Mr.Jayantha Amarasinghe.
Thank you, Sarah. Good morning, everyone. At 5th CIPM International Research Symposium on HRM 2021, our chief guest, Senior Professor Sampath Amaratunge, Chairman of University Grant Commission, Sri Lanka, my Symposium Chair, Professor Prasadhini Gamage, Vice President of CIPM, Mr. Vijayakumar, Keynote Speaker, Dr. Akil Basrai, CEO and Director and the Senior Management of CIPM, and my dear Council members, panel of reviewers, other speakers, senior moderators, qualified presenters, participants, and ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure of addressing the 5th CIPM International Symposium 2021. With all these challenges where you have seen in the market, in the world, in the country, the COVID has disturbed our lifestyle, business cycle, and in total, everywhere. They were able to organize this event, organize this symposium in Sri Lanka at international level. And also they have chosen a theme where it is timely relevant to the deliberation. In this world today, the crisis and the crisis have become a common thing in our life. So that may be the reason, and also the field of work is going to be really challenging one in coming years. So reviewing all these factors must be the reason that chairperson and her committee have chosen this topic, global crisis and the field of work. I would consider that it's highly relevant to the current challenges. I also would like to add something, Professor. In the world, if you really analyze this workforce, the total population is somewhere around 8 billion, and then it comes to the workforce is 3.5 billion somewhere. And when it comes to Sri Lanka, it is 6.5 million, approximately, our workforce. If you really calculate the situation, taking into consideration the current challenges, if you allow 10% or 20% of your workforce is going to be at home and start working from home, it's going to be a real change. So that may be the reason that you have chosen this topic, how we're going to manage this workforce in the world, because it is not a simple task. If it is a 3.5 billion in the world point of view, and also in Sri Lankan point of view, somewhere around 6.5 million. So you can just calculate and see, 10% or 20% of it is just so big. So if you are not going to give solutions to them, we are not addressing the real HR standards in the country as well as globally. CIPM Sri Lanka, as a nation leader in human resource management and the profession, we are delivering core values to the HR fraternity and the profession. Our institute is playing a key role and a leading role in the country, representing human resource management, developing leaders, and the HR professions in line with the objectives of the institute. I and my team of council, we have deliberated enough to understand the required priorities for the institute. And then we as a team, we are driving those priorities in connection with the market challenges and the market dynamics. And also, I and my council delivered incomparable results to improve HR professional standards and its recognition in the local as well as the international level. In the year 2020, when I took over the presidency and this responsibility, we invited our Professor Prasadhini to join the council and to manage this institute. And also we requested her to be in charge of this research center, because personally I believe there are a lot more to do in this country in the area of research. So when you compare with others, and I really happy and confident that her experience and the exposure in terms of taking this subject forward in this country. And you may know that long way to go. The decisions need to be supported by the real findings and the value proposition. In this country, mainly, I have seen huge gap because there is no supporting, there is no findings, there is no reasonable justifications for us to take decisions, but still they take. So I have been talking to Professor Prasadhini many times, and also every other week, like how are we going to address the need of this country in the area of research. And with that intention and with our efforts, she has started the 3 more applied research, and those are in progress, and hope that when the country settle down, we can go to the market and talk about this applied research. Applied research is highly important for this country. You can see the enormous challenges in the country. In many areas, our answers, our solutions are not connected with the issue. So as an institute representing the people management, we can continue this role under her leadership to tell the market, to tell the regulators in this country how important this research subject in the total frame of management, the total frame of governing this country. Apparently, I wanted her to organize a symposium. Then she came forward and said, Jayantha will organize the international level. So I said, it's fine. The council and my intervention were very limited. We gave the total free hand to Professor Prasadhini to manage this symposium. As I said at the beginning, she has enough exposure to do so. And we wanted to organize just a symposium. Now today she has delivered to the level of international symposium, and it has been organized. It has been it is available now in the country. So this is where we have extended and shifted our level of delivery to the international level. Today at this 5th International Research Symposium, Chairperson mentioned all participants are supposed to go through 47 research papers, massive, and also 7 case studies. I'm confident that this symposium will certainly provide required knowledge to our HR professionals, students, and decision makers in the areas of management, or whatever the respective field. Those students or the professionals and who are interested in this area, I'm sure that they will go through research methods and provide opportunities for participants to present, discuss, debate, and analyze methodologies. Networking opportunities, even though it is limited, but we can find ways and means get connected virtually. Learn about their applications in their organizational context, and knowledge translations and exchange researchers, and analyzing of practical HR cases, case studies in the real aspect. How we going to apply in your organization, and applicability of well-known techniques. So these are some of the objectives and areas our participants can go through in the course of the day, as Prof. Prasadhini very clearly mentioned. With all these, you will enjoy the CIPM International Research Symposium 2021. I and the Council are truly happy to witness this achievement. On behalf of the Executive Council, staff, and my senior management team, members, my sincere gratitude and the appreciation to you, Professor, and your team to the wonderful accomplishment of this difficult project during the COVID pandemic in this country. It is my duty to thank all the prominent speakers and also our chief guest, Professor Sampath Amaratunge, Chairman, University of Grant Commission, and also our keynote speaker, Dr. Akil Basrai from India, and Professor Prasadhini Gamage, Chairperson of 5th International Symposium, and members of review panel, and also chairs and co-chairs of technical sessions, the moderators, the panelists of the panel discussions, case study presenters and paper presenters, and research and development committee of CIPM, and CEO and the CIPM, and those who are supported. My sincere gratitude and also the appreciation that mainly I recognize this one of the key achievements of CIPM with all these COVID challenges. So I always believe the fact that no one can stop us as far as we are focused, and changing the way we do business depending on the environmental dynamics. So that is one of the principles that I mainly believe. Even managing the institute, I take that approach. No one can stop us as far as you are focused, and you know, as far as you are focused, and you should know what are the right things to do and what are the limited things to not to do. So with that note, thank you very much, Professor Prasadhini, and the entire team, organizing committee, and also everyone who are here, and also participants and everyone. All the best and good luck.
President of CIPM, Mr.Jayantha Amarasinghe, thank you, sir, for your address. Ladies and gentlemen, since the year 1959, there's been a beautiful milestone and a legacy at CIPM. This is our story.
The right seed, nurtured well, can one day become a mighty tree. And that is exactly the story of CIPM, the personnel officers of 1940 Ceylon, who had navigated choppy seas for years, had become personal managers in the 1950s. A new phenomenon, to say the least. It was among from this number, under the aegis of the ILO and the Department of Labor, that the Institute of Personnel Management was born. On the 22nd of April, 1960, the architects of this national endeavor comprised of Senator, the Honorable Sir Cyril de Souza as founder president, and several industry leaders as office bearers, including Mr. K. Somasundaram, Mr. S.B. Kumarasinghe, Mr. W.H. Savarimuthu, Mr. S.C.G. Perera, Mr. R. Yogaraja, Mr. S.W. Nelson, Mr. M. Kantiratnam, Mr. D.S. Bandarage, Mr. M.E. Senaviratna, Mr. R.I.P. Virakon, Mr. K.M.U. Jayaneddi, Mr. D.E. Vanaguru, and Mr. M.E. Fonseca. Thus, IPM was geared to elevate the field of personnel management to fulfill a national need. Along this journey, there were moments that have become significant national milestones, which includes the Handbook of Personnel Management, compiled by Dr. D.S. Bandarage in 1962, considered the premier guide to personnel management in Sri Lanka for decades. Early professional studies in HR were driven by Mr. S. Egalaheva, former Vice President and the then Director of Studies and Senior Lecturer. He helped the IPM in numerous ways, providing voluntary advisory services. Mr. M.C. Mathupala, who hails from the early days of IPM, was an active council member, advisor, and guru for many decades and in great value. Past presidents who provided human service and leadership were Mr. Nihal Kanakaratna, Mr. S.B.M. Ranatunga, Dr. D.S. Bandarage, Mr. Claude Mendes, Mr. C.T. Caldera, Mr. N.L. Jans, Mr. Joe Madavela, Mr. M.P. Galapatti, Mr. N.R.B. Ranasuria, Dr. Ranjit Cabral, Mr. Gamini De Silva, Mr. Bandula Rathnayake, and Mrs. Sumitra Fernando. CIPM has fond memories of late Mr. L.S. Pires, Mr. N.E.D. Vijayakumar, Mr. A. Joseph, Mr. Y.S. David, late Professor Sudatta Ranasinghe, Mr. Rienzi Perera, and Mr. Joe Madavela, who were strong pillars of strength. IPM was incorporated as a professional body in the discipline of Human Resource Management by Parliamentary Act No. 24 of 1976. The Parliamentary Act empowered IPM to promote and develop the principles, techniques, and practice of personnel management in the interest of the industrial and economic development of Sri Lanka. In 1985, the first ever National HR Congress was organized by IPM. Links with CIPD UK were established in the year 2000 with Mr. Jeff Armstrong, its Director General, gracing the IPM conference as chief guest. Past President Mr. Crisantha Obesekara was instrumental in establishing this long-standing link with CIPD. After over 40 years of IPM being located in small locations, lacking adequate facilities, the year 1998 saw President Mr. Crisantha Obesekara investing in land to construct the institution's first ever building. The HR House was officially declared open on the 31st of July 2001 by Mr. Crisantha Obesekara at this site after the completion of a multi-storied building. The opening ceremony was followed by other memorable milestones such as unveiling of all past presidents' photographs, hosting of the AGM, the launching of the first IPM website, and the opening of the boardroom and the mini library. Mrs. Sumitra Fernando, past president, assisted in introducing the owner of the land, negotiating and writing of deeds on a voluntary basis. In the year 2000, the government, by an act of parliament, exempted IPM from income tax as a result of a strong case developed by Mr. Jayantha Jayaratna, the then vice president. This move led to great financial savings for the IPM over a long period. The Young Members Forum was introduced by Mr. Jayantha Jayaratna, president in 2002. Mr. Janaka Kumarasinghe, who took over as president in July 2002, introduced the HR Service Providers Exhibition and the Suntel IPM Gold Medal for HR Excellence. He also formed an alliance with NIPM India for an annual exchange program, and the official launching of the nationally lauded IPM Learning Center and Library also took place. In 2003, by providing more recognition, the concept of branding was introduced to IPM with the prestigious logo by Mr. Jayantha Amarasinghe. The subsequent years too brought about significant success for IPM. 2005 saw Mr. Daya Bollegala, President, purchase land adjoining the existing building to commence expansion of the location. Mr. Jayantha Jayaratna introduced the concept of the professional qualification in HRM, the process of which he jointly developed and introduced in 2005 with Mr. Janaka Kumarasinghe. He also introduced the Jayantha Jayaratna Gold Award for the best student of the PQ HRM. Mr. Kumarasinghe and Mr. Jayantha Amarasinghe set about branding the PQ HRM. A year later, in 2006, the HR Perspectives Journal was introduced by Mr. Crisantha Obesekara. In 2008, the new extended building initiated by the then President, Mr. Lalit Vijayakumar, was opened by Mr. Jeff Armstrong, Director General CIPD UK. While the Members' Lounge was officially declared open by Mr. Crisantha Obesekara on the invitation of Mr. Vijayakumar, this new addition, with all modern facilities, further enhanced the development of IPM. The success story of the Institute sped up even further in the following years. In 2009, Mr. Chandra Heva Pattiri introduced the Great HR Debate in partnership with Mr. Dhammika Fernando, which is a key feature every year at the IPM Annual Conference. In 2012, IPM received ISO certification. Belying its inherent strength, IPM won Gold Award for its annual report and Silver Award at the Brand Excellence in 2013. A definition for HRM by IPM was developed by a team comprising Mr. Samitha Perera, Professor Ajantha Dharmasiri, and Mr. Janaka Kumarasinghe. In 2014, Mr. Rohitha Amarapala, President IPM, introduced the Great HR Quiz, while in the same year, an MOU was signed between IPM Sri Lanka and IPM India and BSHRM Bangladesh to form the South Asian Association of Human Resources. In 2015, IPM successfully introduced the first ever certified HR auditor program in Sri Lanka, while an MOU was signed the next year with Salford University, UK, to conduct BSc and MSc programs. In 2013, Mr. Samitha Perera, the then president, initiated the process of obtaining, through the parliament, chartered status. This was meticulously followed up by subsequent councils led by presidents Mr. Rohitha Amarapala, Professor Ajantha Dharmasiri, and Mr. Dhammika Fernando, who was supported by former Vice President Mr. G. Veeratunga, former CEO Mr. P.G. Tennakon, and Mr. Indika Vijay Sriwardana. Putting the icing on the cake, IPM was awarded chartered status by the government of Sri Lanka in 2018 through an act of parliament.
ශ්‍රී ලංකා සේවා පිරිස් කළමනාකරණ ආයතනය වරලත් සේවා පිරිස් කළමනාකාර ආයතනය ලෙසට නාමකරණය කිරීම මේ පනත තුලින් සිදුවෙන්නේ.
මේ පනත අපි සකස් කළේ මම කම්කරු ඇමතිවරයා වශයෙන් ඒක සකස් කළා. අද ඉන්න අපේ නව කම්කරු ඇමතිතුමා අද මේක ඉදිරිපත් කරලා අද මේ සභාවේ සාකච්ඡාවට ගන්න. ඒක ඉතාමත්ම හොඳ දෙයක්.
ශ්‍රී ලංකා සේවා පිරිස් කළමනාකරණ ආයතනය සංශෝධන පනත් කෙටුම්පත තුන්වැනි වර කියවා සංශෝධන රහිතව සම්මත කරන ලද බව දන්වන කැමැත්තෙමි.
After intense campaigning, CIPM won the bid to host the World HR Congress in Sri Lanka. In 2020, the negotiation team was led by then President Professor Ajantha Dharmasiri and comprised past presidents Mr. Rohitha Amarapala and Mr. Dhammika Fernando. Another latest significant milestone in the same year was the establishment of MAHRP, Maldivian Association of HR Professionals, and introducing it to APFHRM as the newest member of the regional body. Mr. Dhammika Fernando, former president, was instrumental in achieving this feat. In 2020, CIPM launched the Chartered Qualification in HRM with the Syllabus Revision Committee chaired by Mr. Jayantha Amarasinghe. The existing logo after the chartered status was modified to enhance and strengthen the CIPM brand as a key pillar of its identity, which is significant for the long-term success of the Institute. CIPM is, without a shadow of doubt, the leading authority on human resources in Sri Lanka, adapting to many changes throughout the years, continuously upholding the highest standards and best practices. CIPM Sri Lanka is a member of the Organization of Professional Associations in Sri Lanka and a member of the Asia-Pacific Federation of Human Resource Management and is affiliated to the World Federation of People Management Associations. CIPM has now expanded to regional offices and study centers with about 1,200 corporate and affiliate members and more than 8,000 students poised and ready to take on the next challenges. CIPM has become that giant tree that is set out to be impacting lives, livelihoods, and the nation at large under successive governing councils and ambitious strategic plans set to take CIPM to greater heights while striving towards continuing this success story in the years to come.
That's our little story for you, impacting minds and livelihoods of the nation. And that is what CIPM is all about. Ladies and gentlemen, you're at the inauguration ceremony of the 5th CIPM International Research Symposium on HRM 2021. We now have the address by our chief guest. He holds a BA Honours in Economics from the University of Sri Jayawardhanapura, MA in Economics from the University of Colombo, MSc in Economics from the Rural Development from Saga National University, and a PhD from Kagoshima National University in Japan, and counts nearly 30 years of service at the University of Sri Jayawardhanapura. He is a chair professor of business economics from the Faculty of Management Studies and Commerce, University of Sri Jayawardhanapura. An authority in rural economic development, Professor Amaratunge has won several awards, including the prestigious Research Excellence Award in the year 2002 of the Kyushu Society of Rural Economics in Japan. He's a recipient of the prestigious Japan government Mambukaku Shu Scholarship, under which he completed an MSc in Economics of Rural Development at the Saga National University and a PhD at the Kagoshima National University in Japan. He has over 75 refereed publications of his credit, both locally and internationally. As the twice appointed Vice Chancellor of the University of Sri Jayawardhanapura, Professor Amaratunge has contributed greatly to uplift the standards of the University of Sri Jayawardhanapura. He was responsible for establishing 3 new faculties: the Faculty of Technology, Faculty of Engineering, and the Faculty of Allied Health Sciences. He also was instrumental in laying the foundation stone to create the Faculty of Urban and Aquatic Bioresources and the Faculty of Dental Sciences. His contribution and achievements have been recognized both locally and internationally, and he was awarded a Doctor of Philosophy from the Dharma Buddhist University of Malaysia in the year 2017. He also became the only Vice Chancellor in Sri Lanka to be awarded the Vidyodaya Dharma Shastra Vibhushana, an honorary award in the year 2018 for his services to the nation and Buddhism. In recognition of his visionary leadership, commitment and dedication to the university education, administration, and as former Dean of Faculty of Management Studies and Commerce, the University of Sri Jayawardhanapura, he was awarded the CPM Management Leadership Award in September 2018. In the year 2021, Senior Professor Sampath was awarded with the Order of the Rising Sun. The government of Japan made public the recipients of the Order of the Rising Sun conferred by His Majesty the Emperor of Japan on foreign nationals who have made distinguished contributions to enhancing friendly relations between Japan. Presently, Senior Professor Sampath, the visionary and builder of organizations, Institute University Administrator, Academic Excellence, renowned business consultant, and humanist service, serves as the chairman of the University Grants Commission. Whenever he's the chief guest, ladies and gentlemen, there's an interesting message that is about to take place. I have the real pleasure and honor of introducing you now to the Senior Professor, Sampath Amaratunge, the chief guest for the 5th Symposium, to make his address.
Very good morning. President of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management, Mr.Jayantha Amarasinghe, keynote speaker today all the way from India, Symposium Chair, Professor Prasadhini Gamage, Mr. Chris Obesekara, CEO of CIPM, colleagues from all over, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, let me thank Chairman of the Institute and Professor Prasadhini Gamage for inviting me for this conference, annual conference of CIPM. We all know that we are in a new normal situation today. We have never ever expected a crisis like today. This is known as a global pandemic where the whole world is suffering today. Almost all the economies, not only poor countries, but the big countries, well-developed countries, are severely affected with the pandemic and sacrificing to the death. So, Sri Lanka, we are now experiencing the third wave of COVID. So, we started our pandemic situation in Sri Lanka in March 2020. The first wave lasted from March to August. So schools closed down, and at the same time His Excellency the President wanted University Grants Commission here in Sri Lanka to close all higher educational institutes, national universities. So then we have taken firm action and closed down all universities. Closing down universities in Sri Lanka is not easy because practical training and practical components of degree programs all conduct within and within the university and outside the university. So hostelers everywhere, thousands of numbers stay in universities. There are universities where we accommodate nearly 10,000 hostelers. So you can just imagine, in a pandemic situation like this, we cannot afford hostels where we keep 5,000 to 10,000 hostelers. So immediately we have asked everybody to leave the university within 24 hours in March 2020. Then His Excellency the President wanted University Grants Commission to promote all universities to come online for teaching, learning and examination as well. But we have realized, being a lower middle income country, in most of the universities, the majority of students coming from rural Sri Lanka, and they cannot afford data expenses to come online for learning. So we have reported this issue to the government. So His Excellency the President has given a solution. And even today, from 2020 March, all academics, then undergraduates and postgraduates, everybody enjoy free data when they come to their own LMS programs in universities. So before the pandemic, our technology usage in education is very, very low. I would say it was zero. But fortunately, all universities had quality infrastructure in online teaching, learning, and examination as well. So then, after August, we had few weeks of physical classes, and again the second wave started, and we have moved to another wave, and then the third wave started in this year, April. So with the blessings of technological know-how invested in the system, driven everybody on online teaching and learning as well as examination. So today you can see in this diagram, every week we conduct classes. The last week, ending on Sunday, we have completed 0.8 million classes online, which was zero in 2020 March. And the participation rate is very high, and total number of participants for 0.8 million classes is nearly 1.7 million. So, on one hand, because of technology, today we continue education. ADB has done a survey, not only in the government sector universities, also in non-state sector. So Sri Lanka is doing very well. So education continues. That is what is important. Institutes like CIPM, which is dedicated for HR professionals, are doing extremely well today in Sri Lanka. And CIPM is not a new institute, professional institute. This was established in 1959, more than 60 years ago, 6 decades ago. Maybe the first in our region. And their policies, if you review their vision and mission, are truly developing and enhancing the human capital of global. So, coming back to the symposium, normally having symposiums like this caliber is common in academia. But I was really impressed by looking at the brochure and the way forward of CIPM research culture, because this is a unique something and also like a role model for all other professional bodies, because we need today professionals, those who can look into issues in the industry in the critical perspective. So this, of course, you can achieve only through by research. So then the symposium will provide a platform for HR practitioners, students and faculties to present their scholarly contributions and also to address the contemporary HR issues, especially created by the current challenges faced by the world due to crises such as health challenges, natural disasters and global terrorism. So considering everything in a pandemic situation like this, so CIPM is organizing a global crisis and future of work conference. So my blessings to the conference and also to all paper presenters and participants to have a pleasant conference today. Thank you very much.
Thank you to our chief guest, Professor Sampath Amaratunge. Thank you, sir, for joining us virtually. Ladies and gentlemen, we now come to the address by our keynote speaker, Dr. Akil Basrai. He's a graduate in commerce and with a distinction. He obtained his MBA from Xavier Labor Relations Institute, where he was awarded the J.M. Kumarappa Gold Medal for ranking first. He later passed an LLB and an advanced diploma in training and development, and he was honored with the Barucha Gold Medal for academic excellence. He was awarded a PhD in the year 2012. He has had 48 plus years experience in the industry, and he has worked in various HR roles with Unilever in Kenya, India, and was the executive director HR Motorola for Asia Pacific countries. He worked with Shell Malaysia and Director Human Resources and Managing Director of Shell People Services Asia, SDN BHD. His last corporate assignment was with IBM India Limited as an Executive Director Human Resources. He is currently the Chief Executive Officer of Akil Basrai Consulting. He has been actively associated with the management movement in India, having been the president of the Delhi Management Association, the vice chairman of all India Management Associations of the Northern region. He is on the National Council of CII, HRM, and the Indian Society for Training and Development, and the SHRM, and on board of several education institutes and corporates. Ladies and gentlemen, to address you at the 5th Symposium, I have the real pleasure of handing over to Dr. Akil Basrai to deliver the keynote address. Namaste, sir.
Ayubowan. I'm grateful to CIPM for inviting me. I believe this is the 5th International Symposium, and I wish them good luck for this symposium. It's unfortunate that we all can't meet face to face, but the virtual world should make this as successful as the previous 4 ones. So Dr. Sampath Amartunge, Mr. Jayantha Amarasinghe, Professor Dr. Prasadhini Gamage, and Mr. Chris Oveshekara, and my fellow professionals. It's a privilege to be here amongst fellow professionals across the country. And the topic itself, when I saw the topic of world crisis, I like the word crisis being used in a title which is not very seldom done, because everybody wants to paint a rosy picture. But when I saw the 2 words, world crisis and future of work, I realized that we are always talking about future of work in terms of cliches. every conference and every meetings we go to, we're talking about we should be agile, we should be adaptable, we should adopt, technology will take over all our jobs. And I think that gloom and doom is actually a cliche. So what I have done for this symposium, my preparation, is slightly research on a different topic altogether, considering that this is experience and enthusiastic people of profession who are joining in Sri Lanka. So I have adopted what I call scenario planning. And those of you who are familiar with Shell, and I spent part of my career there, Shell has a very robust process called scenario planning. Every 4 years or 5 years, a bunch of people get together, varied people, economists, futurologists, planners, and even seismologists, the type of people get together to see if something happens major, what will be the Shell's reaction. And sometimes very unusual things get talked about. So somewhere in 86, 87, one of the scenario that was painted was, what if Soviet Russia breaks up? And if you recollect 86, 87, the Russian empire, if you can call it, was at this peak. But to have a scenario that what if it breaks up, then what will be the Shell's reaction? And it just happened that sometime in December 1991, Russia did break up. And all Shell did was take out from the archives, the scenario planning, what should Shell do? And every step was proactively worked out that if this happens, this is what we do. As a result of that, on the third day, there was this private jet which took all the people from legal, commercial, hydrocarbon experts to the mayor of Sakhalin, which is North Russia, and they signed a deal in 2 days' time. Now, see the speed of response. And can you imagine, on the day of signing of the deal, one of the major competitors of Shell, the board was meeting in an air-conditioned, warm room, and here it was minus 17 in Russia. And these people were sitting down, what to do now that Russia has broken up. So see the competitive advantage of scenario planning, or proactively planning something. And that is the approach I have taken for the HR community, in the sense that what is the future of work, and how is it going to be different than what we have done so far, and what should we do if something happens which is different, and everything will be different. As we go forward, things will be different. So I have painted 12 scenarios. In my time, I'll try to cover it quickly. And if there's an appetite, we can talk about it in some other forum later on. In the 12 scenarios, one of the things that we have to accept as an HR community or as business leaders, by HR only, that the normal is over. Nothing will go back to normal. And there are many times people say, when we go back to normal, we'll do this. When we go back to normal, we'll restart this. In my opinion, normal is dead. And there's no question of the normal coming back the way we knew it. And the idea is to accept it rather than live in a denial form. And many of us are hoping that things will come back to normal, and I will do this, and we'll do this, and we'll go back to the way we were doing. So I think one has to accept the reality that the normal, as we knew it till 2019, is over, dead. Now, if it is over and dead, then we have to make sure that find out what is the few changes that will happen which will impact us and our profession. So some of the things that I talk about in scenario planning, that the HR policies and practices will come under sharp scrutiny. They'll actually look obsolete. Many of the policies. And I'll take some examples. For example, succession planning, high potential identification. Now, we have spent considerable management hours and energy in preparing succession planning, who will go where, in what time frame, 1 job away, 2 jobs away, and then put development input behind those people to make them ready for the position that we have identified them for. We'll make a high potential list that this is the leadership quality that we require in the future, and these are the people who have high potential to display that and pick up that, and let us groom them and make them ready. Even those processes will become obsolete. For simple reason that the leadership quality of tomorrow, post-COVID, will be different than what we have seen as success factor in the past. As a result, some of us in HR will have to discard what we created with so much of love, affection, sweat, and blood. Not an easy thing to do. This is our baby. We have created them. And as a result of throwing them away doesn't sound very good proposition. But the scenario will require that you have to break the status quo. And HR must be mentally prepared that nothing is sacrosanct. What has worked so far can be broken and need not be kept alive forever. And that is the mindset we have to get into. That reinvent, redesign, reimagine will be the word in the future. And the faster we accept the reality of that will be the better effectiveness that we will create. The second scenario, home will be the new hub. Already, about 4 or 5 activities which were outdoor have converged into being done at home. One is work. Second, schooling. Who thought that the kids will not be going out to play in the sun, run around, kick a ball, take a recess break with friends? Shopping. All these visits to malls and all that we enjoyed half the time as a what they call retail therapy has been all converged at home. Even entertainment, whatever limited COVID rules, regulations, and safety precautions permit, people have learned to be at home and be satisfied with recreation, Netflix. I mean, how many of us were really looking at Netflix earlier? But the habits are changing. Entertainment is becoming at home. Even fitness. We will not have a very fancy gym at home, but the fact is that we have found some ways and means. So major 5 activities, work, schooling, shopping, entertainment, and fitness have actually adapted at home. And actually we are now finding it easier to work from home. This is not going to go away. So nothing is going to go back to normal. As a result of that, the policies of how do you measure work, how do you set goals, how do you ensure that people are delivering? So far we've been measuring attendance in many organizations, hours of work, all that is obsolete. Instead of measuring how much people are working, we'll have to start measuring what have they worked. And this is the new scenario. As a result of that, the HR processes of goal setting, performance management, and we'll have to train the business leaders how to engage with people. So far, it was very easy to have a huddle, to sit down with a team meeting with the team and have connect. Now with remote, how are they going to manage to remain connected with their employees? And this is the responsibility HR will have to take. And I'm painting a scenario. Some of that may happen, some may not happen, some may happen later. But some of the things that I'm talking about, I would urge you to give it a thought that can it happen in your situation, in your organization, in your country? And if it happens, how well prepared are you proactively to meet that new situation? The third one, if we saw during COVID that there was a lot of empathy and genuine empathy. And I must give credit to our profession. We normally underwrite ourselves very critically, but HR did a fantastic job during COVID. Line managers, some of the most established leaders, business leaders, actually got frozen. Sometime when you go on a highway and you see a wild animal, a wild deer come on the highway and the headlight hits that animal, the animal is frozen. It doesn't know what to do. And this is exactly what happened to many business leaders. And by business, it happened to many leaders. They just did not know how to handle a crisis like COVID. And as a result of that, when HR stepped in with a high level of showing empathy to employees, using empathy as a tool to connect with employees. In many countries, I'm sure this happened with yours also, regular connection with the employees. Even sending dry ration food for them. In some situation, When they were remote, they were not available. Food supplies, etc., were disrupted. Many companies made sure that they supplied even dry food to make sure that people are not uncomfortable, not only to the employees, but they also did to the community around them. I mean, the amount of empathy people felt for each other as human beings for a change, and it was a very nice, warm feeling. In the new year, in the new era, I feel this empathy level will actually go down. And more will go down with the senior level. Because they will be under tremendous pressure after the crisis gets reduced and over to revive business. And reviving business in a hurry means take tough decisions. And their mind will say, look, when it was required, we did everything possible for employees. We showed empathy, sympathy, whatever names HR wants to use. Now it's time to get down to business. And get down to business means tough decision. I'm not against tough decision. If the numbers have to be cut, if the headcount has to be reduced, if compensation has to be slowed down, and if it's business reason for it, we should actually lead the way. We should not shy away. We should not become Santa Claus to say we'll only give good news, and when it comes to bad news, we'll say, oh, but we should not do this. We are not dealing with sympathy as a curtain. We are dealing with empathy as a connect with the employees. But when this goes down, HR will have to come up to say that the culture part is maintained. It doesn't go down as a transaction. And to build up a culture where empathy becomes embedded, celebrate people who are empathetic and yet effective. See the combination. Empathic yet effective. But that high level of people connect is something that HR will have to build up. The next one is that the fluid work position. So far, all these neat boxes and organization charts that we have, in my opinion, they'll get blurred. There'll be demand for more for less. The organizations and leadership will demand more for less. Cost will be a tremendous pressure in post-COVID era. And more for less. So there's all these neat boxes that this person will do only this much. Job description says this is what the person will do, and she will deliver this much, and this is the reporting line, and this is the nice pyramid, neat pyramid. All that might get blurred. There might be time when people will do jobs connected with their job, what I call transitional. And it is quite likely in some scenario that two people will do three people's work. Using automation, using new processes, making sure that we don't cut headcount very drastically and still save money. Now that means a completely new angle of how do you make organization chart if you don't understand business? And HR will have to really understand business. I mean, I can talk about this because I'm in HR for the last 48 years. We are often accused of not understanding business. And sometimes the accusation is correct. We understand PAT, PBT, CAGR to the last decimal point. But what is the business leader losing sleep over? What is she or he worried about tomorrow? What is competition doing? Who is going to eat our rice bowl? Sometimes we miss that. Now we'll have to pick up that thread, make sure we understand business so that the reorganization, combination of jobs, job descriptions, boxes, etc., are receiving our attention and our due consideration rather than automatically we are doing what everybody starts doing by common sense. And that is where the understanding of business also means that what is required rather than what is written. You know, it's not easy. All these things I'm talking about sounds very easy on a symposium, but when you get down to business to do something practical, then we see that when the rubber meets the road, as they say, then this real challenge happens. As a result of this, the fifth scenario will be the reskilling and retraining will become important because you can't do an additional job outside your peripheral if you not know the subject, not know the topic, how to skill. And that is where HR will have to throw away the calendar that we have. You know, we are famous for trading calendars, so many programs, so many months, who will attend, where it will be held. all those will be obsolete. Training will become customized. And therefore that HR will have to understand what is needed in this spot, in this company, in this shop floor. Grassroots level training, even for managerial skills, leadership skills. What is the new leadership skill required? Earlier, we had leadership program 3 days, 5 days in some fancy resort, and we came back giving tick marks to our training calendar. That will become passé. And as a result, the reskilling will become priority even for the employees, because they will realize that I must get reskilled, otherwise my job is at threat. So earlier, when you used to organize training program, we used to have problems with attendance. Sometimes we were 10, 15, 20% of people not turning up, and when you call them, say, oh, so there's some urgent work, I could not come, or the supervisor didn't release me. Now it will be pull factor. Employees will say, give me training. I want to upgrade myself. And when he or she wants to upgrade themselves, the HR will have to give real training, or value add training, not part of the calendar. And as a result, you have to have a very close partnership with the shop floor management. Sitting in air-conditioned office of HR department looking at screen 9x9 is obsolete. Now, I don't want to sound like a grandfather giving some theoretical lecture. I'm a practicing manager like all of you, and I see this happening. Many of us have already done it, so it's not a big surprise that we'll do this for the first time. For many of you, it'll be revisiting, maybe re-emphasizing, so it may not be even surprise, but this will happen. The new thing that might happen in a scenario planning that I have done research on, gig workforce. No, all this time we heard about gig workforce as something that might happen, but it not happen in my company, not in my country. Our economy is different. This happens in more Western economy where situations are different, and we always shied away from making that type of connection. But gig work will happen. People will go for short-term, specialized skill. And gig work name is new, but I've seen this happen in Shell when somewhere 2002, when there was a particular job called underwater jointer. It has a different name, but for conversation purpose, I use the word underwater jointer. You can't do welding, but when the pipe gets damaged or cracked or something, they have to be repaired underwater. And those skills are very rare. We could not hire people because those people who worked were handful across the world in our type of business. And they would not want to work for one company and be stationed in one location. They worked for a few months, then they took a holiday off, they worked, charged a bomb. Now that is gig working. This gig working will be different than contract labor working. They will be specialists. And that will come along, and there will be short-term engagement, and they will not look for long-term employment, but employability. Now, how to use them? Second, when you have people who will work for multiple companies, not only for you, they will work for your competitor. And HR will have to ensure that your intellectual propriety is protected. You know, all this new system means behind the scenes, there's a lot of work required to make it effective, make it safe, make it also for the organization beneficial. And all this thinking of the policy, how do you make intellectual propriety safe in the hands of people who will go and work for competitors? And those processes will have to be put in place. Next scenario, trade union influence will go down, in my opinion. They will lose a bit of their bargaining power because of reskilling and rejigging of the organizations. People will prefer to get themselves reskilled and upgraded rather than rely on unions' power for negotiation. Now, as a result of that, the unions will have to work more collaboratively. And not only union, the management will have to work more collaboratively with the union. And there will be in my opinion, what I call a truce between the two. If there is some tension, they will get reduced. not out of goodness of heart, out of necessity. And this will have implication on a lot of other things that we can very briefly touch upon in the future. Going faster in terms of time, Dr. Prasadhini, I'm on time, 21 minutes I've done, so I've still got 9 minutes to go. So I'll stay with my 30 minutes time that you're giving me now. The ethics and compliance will come under tremendous pressure. Now look at the scenario, short-term employment, gig work, union getting slightly back, taking a back seat. These are all counterbalances. And if they get into a background, there will be some unscrupulous leaders or even organizations who will try to take shortcuts. That is where the watchdog role of HR will come to forefront. Ethics and compliance are the basic foundation of reputation for any organization. And when you have reputation, you attract and retain good talent. So it is not some philosophical point that I'm putting across. This is business imperative. And HR will have to ensure that we are ethical, we are compliant, and we are above board transparently. Today, with the social media, with the glass door, etc., nothing remains secret for long. And any leader or any organization thinks that they can get away by doing something quietly. We saw big organizations like Enroll many years ago, decades ago, vanished, all because of one issue, that there was an ethical issue or violation. So ethics and compliance will become an issue to watch out and keep an eye as a responsible HR function, become the CEOs and CFOs and CXOs eyes and ears to make sure that the organization doesn't get into hot waters in any possible way. And that's where the HR will have to take ownership. Now, is it only HR job? Not at all. It's a senior management job, but somebody has to be the coordinator, the aggregator, and ethics and compliance, the CFO. Why do we have audit, for example? Same function. Everything is going well. There's a system in finance, but yet we have an audit to make sure that nothing has gone wrong. And that is where in ethics and compliance, HR will have to ensure that they become not a bloodhound, not looking for violation, looking for people to punish, but watchdog, that nothing goes out of hand. The ninth one will be leadership profile will change. And then I feel that the younger professionals will get more opportunity to take on this responsible position. COVID has exposed many senior leaders to be actually, they're not that invincible as we thought. They had an aura of becoming very big leaders with aura, but in COVID, they lost that aura because they actually, like I mentioned, they got frozen. And in that, they did not know what to do. They were looking at other people, what they're doing, what the government is trying to tell us to do. And they lost that edge that they're leading. And what happened in that vacuum is that some of the younger leaders, even first-line supervisors, started connecting with employees more empathetic. Maybe culturally, socially, they were at a similar level, so it was easy for them. And as a result, some of the younger people came to forefront to be the champions with the employees. And these employees started looking at them as leaders. Also, second thing, the automation that is coming in so rapidly in all the countries, the technological advancement will make sure that so far we have promoted people at senior level with gray hair or no hair, and that criteria is gone. Now we will promote people on techno-managerial skill, not managerial experience. As a result, you will find a lot of youngsters will get opportunity to lead. And that's a good news. That is the only good news that will happen, that some of these youngsters will take, research shows in Asia, and I'm talking about Asia, that 11.1 years has been cut off from leadership position in last 30 years. That means those who became department head or directors at the age of 51 are now becoming at the age of 49.1 years. So younger people will take lead. The business plan, and I will rush through this. So far we are used to at best, minimum 1 year plan, 3 year plan, short-term plan, 5 years, even long-term plans for 10 years and plus. In my view, business plan will get compressed. People don't know what the future likely to be in the coming times. So instead of long-range plan, very long-range plan, medium-term plan also will go away. It might happen that organizations will plan quarter to quarter. And people say, but that's transactional. It may be transactional, but that is a way to survive. And if that happens, goal setting system that we are used to for annual goal setting and annual appraisal will all disappear. And if they disappear, your reward mechanism will also disappear. We give annual increments, we give annual bonuses. I feel a time may come that organizations will have quarterly targets, employees will have quarterly targets. If the company does well in the quarter, employees will gain share, otherwise better luck next time. That means HR's whole process of appraisal, reward system, etc. will undergo a change. And the last point that I would like to cover about, just a minute. Yeah, so I've got another 3.5 minutes. Gender diversity. The good news is that working from home has made the impression that people had that women cannot do certain long distance travel, long hours because they have responsibility at home. All wrong. But there is a notion that women are disadvantaged for very senior level position because they have other priorities or home priorities and they cannot do this, they cannot travel, etc. Myth. And work from home has brought what I call level playing field. And now we'll see more women in leadership position. And that's good news. And HR will have to ensure that our policies and training programs and opportunity identifications make sure that we give gender a priority. Because it is not only to be good and paternalistic about it. Gender diversity or even other diversity with challenged people, etc., gives you competitive edge. And it's a business imperative. We're not being just nice and paternalistic about it. And we'll have to make sure that we rise up to the occasion. Some small things that might happen, that working from home and working remotely has already given rise to people doing moonlighting job, earning money through some other methods, online business, or even clandestinely working for some other people on a project. This is reality. Now we'll have to ensure that how do we make sure that our work is not suffering, our productivity is not going down, and that our intellectual propriety is protected. And these are some thinking work required with line managers and with people who are in charge, who are specialists in managing. So at the end of the day, we'll have to manage two things, that we measure productivity, output, rather than how many days and hours people have worked. Now, that means requiring a complete change of HR processes, keeping an eye on people who are not in front of you. What I have done in this 12 scenario is that I'm trying to highlight to you that this is the way you can look at organization that you are employed with or you are running, and make sure that some of the anticipation that you can do of this might happen, prepare yourself proactively. We have been called many times in many countries that we are a firefighting department. We react very well, but we don't proact. Something happens in crisis, call HR. But can HR be now termed as a proactive agent of change? And I think this is the opportunity post-COVID to show that we have the wherewithal to support business, not HR for the sake of HR, but to support business in a way that we are actually shaping the future of the business, not just playing this, what I call cliche of a business partner role, supporting processes, etc. But we play an active role. And if we do this, we don't have to worry about the seat on the table. And if we do this well, we might actually, many of us may be heading the table. In case there's an interest for CIPM or others to do this work in Sri Lanka, I'll be happy to mentor some of you to do this work. I'm doing this with 2 business schools here to make the students write a report on how to do scenario planning and how to do that. I'll be very happy to as a gesture of my gratitude for being invited today. So thank you, Dr. Prasadhini, for inviting me. My time is just over. I have taken 32 seconds more, ma'am. Sorry for that, but thank you very much for the time attention. I wish I was in Sri Lanka. I hope that post-COVID, I'll get an opportunity to visit you and love the country, love the people, love the food, actually. So it is always an attractive proposition to visit Sri Lanka. And if I can say Ayuban again, thank you very much.
Our keynote speaker for you, Dr. Akil Basrai, joining us all the way from India. Reinvent, redesign, and looking at the future, and also the transitions of working at home as well. It's going to be a challenging task, but I'm sure with the company policies and people come together, we can make it happen. Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the conclusion of today's inauguration ceremony of the 5th CIPM International Research Symposium on HRM 2021. And to propose the vote of thanks, I'd like to invite the Secretary, Mr. Indika Kaluarachchige, to propose the vote of thanks.
Good morning, all of you, respected ladies and gentlemen. It gives me immense pleasure to deliver the vote of thanks in this inauguration ceremony of 5th CIPM International Research Symposium on HRM 2021, organized by Standing Committee on Applied Research and Knowledge Center. My very special thanks to our chief guest, Senior Professor Sampath Amaratunge, Chairman, University Grant Commission in Sri Lanka, who gave an inspirational speech. Next, I would like to express my gratitude to Dr. Akil Basrai, our keynote speaker from India, for his valuable contribution. I take this opportunity to thank CIPM President, Mr. Jayantha Amarasinghe, and the members of the Executive Council, and Mr. Obesekara, CEO, and all CIPM staff who supported us in numerous ways to success this event. I also convey my heartfelt thanks to the members of review panel, chairs and co-chairs of technical session, the moderator and the panelists of the panel discussion, case study presenters and paper presenters. May I take this occasion to thank our main sponsors of this event, Lanka Tiles Group of Companies, Managing Director, Mr. Mahendra Jayasekara, Sri Lanka Telecom Mobitel PLC, Chief Marketing Officer, Mr. Rohana Ellepola, for your great support. Next, the Standing Committee on Applied Research and Knowledge Center. We work as a team. We are extremely grateful to the chairman of the Research Symposium, Professor Prasadhini Gamage, who gave us the excellent leadership, and our members, Mr. Tarindu Veerasinghe, Dr. Dilruk Shihera, Dr. Prabhashini Vijayakumar, Ms. Dulanjani Veeratunga, Mr. Tarindu Gunatilaka, Mr. Atula Evapatirada, Mr. Uday Rathnayake, and Mr. Sajit Archana. Let me express our gratitude to Ms. Kamani Perera, Manager Research and Development, for your contribution and dedication to success this event. I wish to thank Event Management Company, TICIM, for your great support. Finally, I thank all who gave your support to success this event. I kindly invite you all to stay with us throughout the day. with our research symposium. Thank you very much and have a great day.
Thank you very much, Mr. Indika Kaluarachchige, for proposing the vote of thanks and closing remarks for today's inauguration ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, we take a short break now of 10 minutes and the technical sessions will follow up soon. We'd like to invite our dignitaries to please join us upstairs for a few refreshments. And to our viewers who are watching us at home, wherever you are, please stay safe. We'll be back with you in 10 minutes to begin the technical sessions with an interesting topic of the most important one, rather, the world crisis and the future of work. Stay with us.
There's a thing from your country that I'm totally hooked on. And I am not talking about your tea.
Lanka tiles, the Sri Lankan tile with a global following.
This is one way of showing convenience, and my SLT is just another name for convenience. Services here, there, and everywhere. Now brought under my SLT. Access all of SLT Mobitel services through one app. SLT Mobitel, the connection.
You should be proud of your country, where the richest offerings of nature are turned into a finer form through pure craftsmanship. And I'm not talking about the sapphire on my ring.
Lanka tiles, the Sri Lankan tile with a global following.
මේ පහසුව පෙන්වන එක විදිය. MySLT app කියන්නේ පහසුවට කියන තවත් නම. අතන මෙතන හැමතැනම තියෙන සේවාවන් එක තැනකට ගෙන MySLT app දැන් සියලුම SLT Mobitel සේවාවන් වලට MySLT app හරහා එකවර පිවිසීමේ හැකියාව. SLT Mobitel එකම එක සැබඳියාව.
On occasion, when it's cold here in winter, even a good fire isn't enough to make you feel warm. Sometimes you need to bring in a little spice. And I'm not talking about your cinnamon.
Lanka tiles, the Sri Lankan tile with a global following.
இது வசதிய காட்டுற விதம். YSLT appனா வசதிதான். YSLT app மூலம் அங்கும் இங்கும் எங்கும் இருக்கும் அனைத்து SLT Mobitel சேவைகளையும் தற்போது ஓரிடத்தில் பெற்றிட ஒரே தடவை பிரவேசியுங்கள். SLT Mobitel நிகரற்ற இணைப்பு.
What makes a nation great? Is it the richness of its heritage, the beauty of its natural bounty, the state of its state-of-the-art, or is it the bonds that bind us? For decades, SLT Mobitel has been linking Sri Lankan lives and uniting the nation. Whatever the future may look like, we'll always be right here, connecting you to the things you care most about. SLT Mobitel, the connection.
There's a thing from your country that I'm totally hooked on. And I am not talking about your tea.
Lanka tiles, the Sri Lankan tile with a global following.
This is one way of showing convenience, and my SLT is just another name for convenience. Services here, there, and everywhere. Now brought under my SLT. Access all of SLT Mobitel services through one app. SLT Mobitel, the connection.
You should be proud of your country, where the richest offerings of nature are turned into a finer form through pure craftsmanship. And I'm not talking about the sapphire on my ring.
Lanka tiles, the Sri Lankan tile with a global following.
මේ පහසුව පෙන්වන එක විදිය. MySLT app කියන්නේ පහසුවට කියන තවත් නම. අතන මෙතන හැමතැනම තියෙන සේවාවන් එක තැනකට ගෙන MySLT app. දැන් සියලුම SLT මොබිටෙල් සේවාවන් වලට MySLT app හරහා එකවර පිවිසීමේ හැකියාව. SLT මොබිටෙල් එකම එක සැබඳියාව.
On occasion, when it's cold here in winter, even a good fire isn't enough to make you feel warm. Sometimes you need to bring in a little spice. And I'm not talking about your cinnamon.
Lanka Tiles, the Sri Lankan tile with a global following.
இது வசதியை காட்டுற விதம். YSLT appனா வசதிதான். YSLT app மூலம் அங்கும் இங்கும் எங்கும் இருக்கும் அனைத்து SLT மொபிட்டல் சேவைகளையும் தற்போது ஓரிடத்தில் பெற்றிட ஒரே தடவை பிரவேசியுங்கள். SLT மொபிட்டல் நிகரற்ற இணைப்பு.
What makes a nation great? Is it the richness of its heritage, the beauty of its natural bounty, the state of its state-of-the-art, or is it the bonds that bind us? For decades, SLT Mobitel has been linking Sri Lankan lives and uniting the nation. Whatever the future may look like, we'll always be right here, connecting you to the things you care most about. SLT Mobitel, the connection. What makes a nation great? Is it the richness of its heritage, the beauty of its natural bounty, the state of its state-of-the-art, or is it the bonds that bind us? For decades, SLT Mobitel has been linking Sri Lankan lives and uniting the nation. Whatever the future may look like, we'll always be right here, connecting you to the things you care most about. SLT Mobitel, the connection.
There's a thing from your country that I'm totally hooked on. And I am not talking about your tea.
Lanka Tiles, the Sri Lankan tile with a global following.
This is one way of showing convenience, and MySLT is just another name for convenience. Services here, there, and everywhere. Now brought under MySLT. Access all of SLT Mobitel services through one app. SLT Mobitel, the connection.
You should be proud of your country, where the richest offerings of nature are turned into a finer form through pure craftsmanship. And I'm not talking about the sapphire on my ring.
Lanka Tiles, the Sri Lankan tile with a global following.
මේ පහසුව පෙන්වන එක විදිය. MySLT app කියන්නේ පහසුවට කියන තවත් නම. අතන මෙතන හැමතැනම තියෙන සේවාවන් එක තැනකට ගෙන MySLT app. දැන් සියලුම SLT මොබිටෙල් සේවාවන් වලට MySLT app හරහා එකවර පිවිසීමේ හැකියාව. SLT මොබිටෙල් එකම එක සැබඳියාව.
On occasion, when it's cold here in winter, even a good fire isn't enough to make you feel warm. Sometimes you need to bring in a little spice. And I'm not talking about your cinnamon.
Lanka Tiles, the Sri Lankan tile with a global following.
இது வசதியை காட்டுற விதம். YSLT appனா வசதிதான். YSLT app மூலம் அங்கும் இங்கும் எங்கும் இருக்கும் அனைத்து SLT மொபிட்டல் சேவைகளையும் தற்போது ஓரிடத்தில் பெற்றிட ஒரே தடவை பிரவேசியுங்கள். SLT மொபிட்டல் நிகரற்ற இணைப்பு.
What makes a nation great? Is it the richness of its heritage, the beauty of its natural bounty, the state of its state-of-the-art, or is it the bonds that bind us? For decades, SLT Mobitel has been linking Sri Lankan lives and uniting the nation. Whatever the future may look like, we'll always be right here, connecting you to the things you care most about. SLT Mobitel, the connection. What makes a nation great? Is it the richness of its heritage, the beauty of its natural bounty, the state of its state-of-the-art, or is it the bonds that bind us? For decades, SLT Mobitel has been linking Sri Lankan lives and uniting the nation. Whatever the future may look like, we'll always be right here, connecting you to the things you care most about. SLT Mobitel, the connection.
There's a thing from your country that I'm
Once again, good morning to you, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us through our technical sessions of the 5th CIPM International Research Symposium on HRM 2021, organized by the Standing Committee on Applied Research and Knowledge Center. Our topic for our technical discussion is World Crisis and the Future of Work. We'd like to introduce you to our panelists this morning. He is a rare combination of being a chartered manager, chartered HR professional, and a chartered electrical engineer. He's an acclaimed as a conference speaker, corporate trainer, strategy consultant, author, and an academic as well. He was the director and chairman of the Board of Management of the Postgraduate Institute of Management, University of Sri Jayewardenepura, Sri Lanka. He's an adjunct professor at the Price College of Business, University of Oklahoma, and he was the editor of the pioneering Sri Lankan Journal of Management as well. Being a Commonwealth Ambisa Doctoral Fellow, Fulbright Postdoctoral Fellow, and a Commonwealth Postdoctoral Fellow, he is also an independent director on several boards as well. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Professor Ajantha Dharmasiri. Joining us next is a gentleman who began his career in year 1992 as a management trainee, human resources at Singer Industries Ceylon Limited. And since then, his outstanding skills helped him in a brisk ascent of career ladders of his chosen profession, playing his key management roles in multinational companies as a senior manager, human resources, operations manager, Singer Group of Companies, head of human resources of Coca-Cola Beverages Sri Lanka, and group human resources manager at Caltex Lubricants Sri Lanka, human resources director, head of brand enforcement, British American Tobacco Sri Lanka, and the head of the shared services BAT regional office in Malaysia, and director, CEO, CBO Food International in the year 2012. His contribution towards the industry and the profession, the continuous endeavors towards the excellence in HRM as a past president of the Institute of Personal Management Sri Lanka, and his quick progression to the highest level of management gained him the much acclaimed IPM Lifetime Gold Medal at the National Human Resources Conference in the year 2013. He has also been lauded for the many achievements in the fields of organizational development, business excellence, and manufacturing management. He was awarded the prestigious Indira Gandhi Gold Medal for Outstanding Profession in the year 2010. In March 2016, he was honored by the Postgraduate Institute of Management alumni and the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce with the PIMA CCC Diamond Award for the Most Outstanding Business Leader of the Year. He holds a PhD from Management Science, University of Malaysia, an MBA from the University of Lincolnshire and Humberside, UK, and many postgraduate qualifications in different fields. Ladies and gentlemen, our panelists, Dr. Samitha Perera. Joining us next as our panelist is currently holding the position of Director Human Resources at Waters Edge Limited and counts over 30 years of experience in the field of human resources management and general manager. He's known as the people's leader as his passion is groom and coach future leaders. He has held managerial and senior managerial positions in Lanka Ceylon Limited, Valedictory Plantations, Keel's Plantations, Lanka Equities, MAS Holdings, Brandix, and Delmage Fawcett. Further, he has held a regional head of HR position in Malaysia for Good Hope Asia, and it is evident from the above that he has exposure to several industries such as plantations, apparel, manufacturing, business process outsourcing, knowledge process outsourcing, and diversified industries, palm oil refineries, and hospitality industries as well. He's currently the Vice President of CIPM Sri Lanka and serving as the CIPM Executive Council for the past 5 years. He's a renowned motivational trainer and lecturer as well, and holds a Bachelor of Arts qualification from the University of Prasadhini and postgraduate diploma in management from the Postgraduate Institute of Management, and also a senior faculty member of the Chartered Institute of Personal Management since the year 2008. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you our panelists, Mr. Ken Vijayakumar. Our next panelist is an attorney at law and has served the Attorney General's Department as the State Counsel for a period of 5 years. Thereafter joined the Employees Federation of Ceylon in the year 2000 and is the Deputy Director General of the Federation as well. He has followed various training programs conducted by the ILO, ILO-ITC, International Training Center Turin, Italy, and the Japanese Employers Organization. Is involved in advising in the areas of employment, labor law, industrial relations, and is the resource person for EFC Training Center, a member of the National Labor Advisory Council. Ladies and gentlemen, our panelist, Mr. Vajira Ellepola. And last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, to steer with an interesting topic for today, joins us as our moderator who counts over 20 years of management and learning solutions experience in diverse sectors, including the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, the ICICI Bank India, the Sri Lanka Institute of Marketing, and the Sri Lanka Foundation. And he serves as the Faculty of Member Management Consultant at the Postgraduate Institute of Management of the University of Sri Jayawardenepura since the year 2016. At the Sri Lanka Foundation during the year 2012 and 15, he was the chairman of the Board of Examiners and was in the Board of Study. He was the Director of Studies of Sri Lanka Institute of Training and Development during the year 2012 to 2014. At the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management of Sri Lanka, he has contributed as the co-chairman of the Great Human Resources Practices in the year 2017 and the chairman of the Great HR Practices in the year 2018. He has served as the co-chairman of the International Symposium of Innovative Banking organized by the Bank of Ceylon, Sri Lanka, 2019 and 20. He's graduated from the University of Kelaniya with a special degree in HRM and MBA from PIM and PhD from Infrastructure University of Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. He holds a certified professional marketer Asia, practicing marketer Sri Lanka status, and a certified human resource development auditor from TVRLS India. And he's a regular speaker, panelist, and a moderator, reviewer, and a human resource development trainer in a number of international conferences and institutions. Ladies and gentlemen, our moderator for our panel discussion for today, Dr. Samantha Rathnayake. And now may I hand over the floor to Dr. Samantha Rathnayake to take over the proceedings.
Welcome to CIPM Symposium. About exploring this topic of future of work. Ladies and gentlemen, we are joining here physically. We have a diverse panel here, but I am sure the audience is joining from all over the world. So thank you very much for joining here, and welcome once again for this panel discussion. So we have a wonderful 1 hour to explore this fascinating topic. So in that light, if I set the tone, the modalities that each panelist would bring their perspectives to the topic in a broader perspective in like 3 to 4 minutes at the early stage. And then of course we'll build from their discussion. And the latter part, we are going to look at the future aspect, the future of work, which we are very much looking for. And at the same time, overall, so they would bring a couple of closing messages and these messages at the end. So as far as the research symposium is concerned, before handing over the mics to the relevant panelists, so may I say that setting the tone from a research point of view. So we are looking at 2020, so the coronavirus infected diseases 2019, which is impacting in 2019, the 2020. So if you look at the key dynamics in this decade, particularly up to 2020, the past decade of technological advancement, the looming possibility of mass job displacement, so untenable skill shortages, the competitive change, the unique nature of human intelligence, now it is being challenged by artificial intelligence. The coming decade, that is, we are referring to the future, particularly will require purposeful leadership and of course, future of work that fulfills human potential and creates broad shared prosperity. Dear ladies and gentlemen, we know that with all those prospective aspects and the opportunities, the pandemic is now impacting. So the growing income inequality, the technology-driven displacement of jobs, the rising societal discord in the global scale.
So if you look at the combined health and economic shocks, particularly from last year to now, and the economy is into free fall, disrupted labor markets, so fully reveal inadequacies of our societal contracts, and particularly this millions of the losing of livelihoods and the job losses and the risks at global scale. So with that, if you look at the current experience which we are now operating, in this, the threatening of livelihood of those at the lower end of the income strata, particularly, that spectrum is quite wide, and the billions of workers have experienced changes which have profoundly transformed their lives within and beyond the world. And of course, we are looking at the well-being and the productivity of the workforce. And with that, we are very much intrigued to look at the future, that is the developing and enhancing human skills and capabilities through education, learning, and meaningful work, the key drivers of economic success and individual well-being and social cohesion. So with that, if you look at today, the keynote speaker, the main speaker, the president, and the conference chair have set the tone and set the dynamics for this. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, now context is ready to explore this fascinating topic. So to begin with, in the opening remarks, may I invite first Professor Dharmasiri to set the tone from a macro and conceptually the holistic picture. With that, we'll take it on. Professor Dharmasiri, over to you.
Nature-made crisis, there can be man-made crisis. In fact, Sri Lanka had been witnessing so many crises if you look at the past. If I remember 2004, Boxing Day tsunami was a nature-made crisis where we had to go through intense discomfort. And if you look at 2019, Easter Sunday bombing attack, there is clearly a man-made crisis where we had to go through a huge discomfort. And the current pandemic, the planetary pandemic, still we are debating whether it's a man-made crisis or a nature-made crisis. That question, that ambiguity is still remaining. I'm sure they will find the solution very soon. So the point is, Dr. Samantha, in this scenario, I would like to refer to the Chinese word for crisis, Wei Ji. In fact, it is American linguist Benjamin Zimmer who analyzed the two characters of the word crisis, the Wei Ji. He said the Wei means opportunity, G means danger. Every crisis has an opportunity dimension. Every crisis has a danger dimension. So it's interesting to see COVID-19 had become a huge opportunity for pharmaceutical industry to thrive. In fact, the vaccine developers, it is a huge $1 billion industry, huge opportunities for the new normal, the technological advancement. At the same time, it's a huge threat, it's a huge danger where the human life is threatened. So you see the opportunity dimension and the threat dimension coming very clear. So what could be the management response? What could be the HR response? I would argue if it's an opportunity, we need to look at opportunity in 3S manner. Sensing an opportunity, sizing an opportunity, seizing an opportunity. We need to put our antennas up and looking for opportunities, sensing the opportunity. Simply because opportunities are there in the environment, that doesn't mean that they all are really feasible. So we need to quantify, we need to evaluate, that is the sizing part. And if the size fits, then you need to seize it. You need to grab it before your competitors do. That is the seizing part. So sensing an opportunity, sizing an opportunity, seizing an opportunity. That is the management decision making with regard to crisis, with regard to the opportunity dimension. The other side, the danger side, the threat dimension. I would argue it's a AAA approach. First, we have to acknowledge that there's a threat. The biggest problem, Dr. Samantha, is that a lot of leaders, they just live in a comfort zone. They don't acknowledge that there's a threat. I'll give you a global example and a local example. When there was this threat from South Korea with Samsung coming in a big way when Nokia global directors at their global conference. It was the global marketing director of Nokia that alerted the global chairman that Samsung is coming in a big way. The global chairman just scoffed at it and neglected that, and they had the last laugh. And we know what happened to Nokia. So that is a global example. I know in a Sri Lankan multinational where I was closely working, where they were having a toothpaste, which is a dominant product in the market. And there came from nowhere a locally produced toothpaste with a clove oil flavor. And then I still remember having a chat with the R&D manager who said, it will never be a success because clove oil had never been tested and proven as a tooth protector. But he was wrong. It did not take even 6 months for them to have a huge dent in their market share, whereas the new product was a sensationally attractive product to the consumer. So we have to acknowledge that there's a threat. So the first point is acknowledging the threat around. Second point is to evaluate or act or assess. You need to have the clear comprehension of the nature of the threat, the level of the threat, the degree of the threat. And then you have to address it, take the right appropriate action. So acknowledge the threat, assess the threat, and address the threat. The best example comes Dr. Samantha from the aviation industry. If you take a typical airline pilot, say when a flight is moving, say up in the air, and then when there's a turbulence, of course, if you have flown, I'm sure you would have heard this very common message. There's a message saying, there's a turbulence, please return to your seat belts and fasten your seat belts. So captain has switched on the seat belt sign. So that is the first message. And then the pilots assess the level of threat with the turbulence. And if the level of threat is very high, the second message comes, cabin crew, please return to your seats, please stop serving. And then that shows that the level is much higher. And of course, if the level is very, very serious, you might not get a third message. Third message will not come. So that is the level where you need to acknowledge, assess, and address. So let me summarize. With regard to opportunity dimension of a crisis, you need to sense it, size it, and seize it. Whereas if it, say with regard to the threat dimension, you need to acknowledge it, assess it, and address it. So coming to the COVID scenario, I think we have both sides. So I think it's a good opportunity for HR professionals to look at the opportunity dimension, look at the threat dimension. I know what Airbnb has been doing anyway. Not having a formal office, not having an assigned desk and a table, anybody could sit anywhere using your laptop, and your laptop is your office. I think that has become a reality for us with working from home, telecommuting, virtual meetings, and all sort of things. So those are huge opportunities. At the same time, the threat dimension affecting the human lives, the dilemma of balancing lives on one side, livelihoods on the other. So how to have this subtle balance? So lots of thinking needs to be done, lots of fresh approaches needs to be obtained, and we need to do things differently.
Thank you, Professor Dharmasiri, for setting the tone. And it's very clear in terms of sensing, sizing, and seizing. I'm sure the audience would be very much looking forward to look at the aspects of particularly the sizing, the seizing opportunity aspects. Also, the acknowledge, assess, and addressing, how we are going to address. But in the first round, let me go to, from the professor's holistic view, to Dr. Samitha, from a CEO's perspective. What is your opening remarks, Mr. Perera, Dr. Perera?
Thank you, Dr. Samantha. I take this opportunity to thank Professor Prasadhini for inviting me here. I totally agree with Professor Ajantha. I think there's no debate. It's clearly mentioned, it's a crisis is a crisis. So they accept the crisis as a crisis. There's, I mean, the biggest mistake sometimes the companies, organizations do is you don't really see what's happening in the market. And if you really go back to the basics of how do you craft your business strategy, you start from the market and you understand your macro factors. And this is a crisis that we are getting, a change in the environment that we are working, and which is a part of your regular business strategy. The only question here is, though organization has the business continuity plans, emergency responsive plans, but we have not seen this as this gravity and is a global crisis. And how it's really happening is like, you will see that it will impact the country differently. And if you are a global organization, then again, how it's impacting versus a local organization is different. So you get to understand how does it really impact the industry that you're operating in that particular country. And when you see that industry is impacting it, and then you go back to your organization, and how do we operate ourselves in this kind of a changing environment, in this kind of a crisis we are going through. And then you will stem from you challenge your strategy of your operating. And as example, now today, like you are talking about globally, dollars of 4 trillion impacting the tourist industry. As Professor was rightly talking about, the pharmaceutical industry the other way. Like they will gain probably trillions of dollars to that industry. So it's an opportunity as well as the threat that you measure it. So then the problem is that organizations don't really get these numbers right, the analysis right. They go into panic situations. And if you really look at it from micro point of view, there's a market issue where that your consumer inability to reach your product, or that he's inability to really purchase that product. And from the organization point of view, it's a people issue. It's a people issue, like you people can't work, your employees can't work in the organization, and that you need to look at from that point of view. And unfortunately, some of the organizations have really moved into a level, the last option to do act like now. So start restructuring it and looking at this as an opportunity to really resize the organization and cutting down the cost. And when you have a people issue down the line, and when you really do the harassment for that particular segment, you will never come out of this issue. So it's a leadership of the organization to see what is our strategy to operate in this kind of environment, and how do we really operate. So if you're a tourist industry that your capital is being employed for, let's say, huge chain of hotels. So how are we going to operate it? Can we really rechange our strategy of operating? Can we really look at it, changing our dynamics, our business strategy to a different level? Now, example is some of the hotels are really surviving the quarantine kind of options they have. So they're surviving it. There's an opportunity that you can get it. Yes, the tourist industry has impacted, but still that you can have it. Now, I have seen some of the 5-star hotels, they have started door-to-door operations. And you have to understand, as Professor was rightly saying, you got to understand there's a problem. And then see backwards, how do you really survive in this, the bad patch that we are going through. So it's a survival game at the moment on that. So some organizations is an opportunity that you really grab it and move on, but the industry is impacted heavily, the survival. And what I firmly believe, like, you have to get your strategy right and not make a long-term issue out of the short-term issue. So as I said earlier, unfortunately, organizations are making a long-term issue over a short-term issue that we are going through. So that's something that, we have to really look at it. And then, so we'll discuss later, like, what kind of elements that you have to look at it from HR perspective and from the business perspective. So my summary, my point here I'm driving is how organizations should look at it on a business strategy point of view. It's not you looking from the operational point of view. If you look at it from operational point of view, you will lose the opportunity. So it's a strategy to the market that, what you should do in this kind of a turmoil environment, in a bumpy environment, and then work backwards. Look at your model of the operation, look at the opportunities for the market, and then drive. You have your assets. You have been working well last so many years, and therefore that culture that you are looking at it, the capability of your people, all that there. So it's a risk skilling your talent for your new strategy of new operation that you're working in, and then move forward. And that's my initial thoughts on this.
Thank you, Dr. Samitha. I think you are bringing the strategic agenda into the forefront and looking at both outside in versus inside out, and how we are going to make it the strategy in line with the short-term and the long-term game plan. So we'll come back. I think you are opening up a lot of horizons in that light in the second round. So from a CEO's point of view, Mr. Vijayakumar, this is ideal time for us to look at in your opening remarks from a director HR. Now it's getting down in the process. It's over to you, Mr. Vijayakumar.
Thank you, Dr. Samantha. I will get into this crisis in two way of prompting two. One is how, at the national research point of view, how do we look at this problem?
Sorry, you need to keep close. You need to keep close.
Okay, close. Okay. So I will look at crisis into two-pronged approach. One is from the national research point of view. The other one is as an HR professional, how an HR professional will look into the crisis. What are the challenges? So from a research point of view, in Sri Lanka, we are not assessed how many, people are laid down. How many people have lost their income, like, living wage. How many daily, there are people are depending on daily work, payment hawkers, daily businessmen who are making a daily wage, how they were impacted. Okay.
Sorry to interrupt. You have to keep very close. These are
okay. Sorry. Fine. So how they were impacted. Apart from that, we look at the social aspect. Now companies have started working from home or remote working. How that has been successful. How their, what they call the monitoring of their performance has been captured, whether it's successful or not. These are from the research point of view. No research has gone so far as to that. Then I see in the newspapers on a daily basis, domestic violence have increased. People working from home. The downside of working from home, because people were, they go to work every morning, but the reverse is the domestic violence. Employee wellness, the mental, the wellness, then the mental well-being. Those things we need to do an empirical research and find out how it has been impacted Sri Lanka or worldwide. I think McKinsey and the World Economic Forum, they are also doing research. But from a research point of view, what is the impact on the people, and what is the impact on the economy, and what is the impact of the total, the nation as well. So that is from a research point of view, you need to do empirical research and find out what is the total impact. I represent an industry where close proximity employees, it is close proximity, disruptions takes place because I represent hospitality industry. Quite rightly, our CEO, Dr. Samitha said, how hospitality industry, especially, are they facing challenges? Some of them actually, they were sort of, taking the opportunity. They converted their business models into, one is the delivery service, the home delivery service. And also, people, the quarantine centers, they made, an opportunity for quarantine centers where the employment opportunity were granted again to the employees, because in the hospitality industry, as you know, the people are paid a very low basic salary, and as an incentive, with a team incentive, the service charge is paid. So now, to see their disposable income, it has been brought down by 50% or lower. So how, we look out at them. How do we make them comfortable to look after their families, etc. That's a challenge as well. So that is from a national point of view. My other approach as an HR director or HR professional, how do we look at this challenge? How do we manage people? Because some of them are asked to stay at home. Some of them are supposed to report to work. How do we, now companies are not earning, the business revenue. How do we pay their salaries? It's a big challenge. And then being at home, again, I said to you that their mental well-being, their wellness, etc. need to be looked into. And also now, when they send to these quarantine centers, if they're infected, etc., how do we sort of focus on their well-being? Where are they taken? We need to have constant communication, etc. Then also, people have been asked to work remotely, but our employers are providing facilities such as their equipment, laptops, network connectivity, etc. You can't simply ask people to work from home. You need to provide those facilities. So are they being provided? Even I see in the news, even the students, they're finding difficult for network accessibility from the remote area. And some of the students, they are climbing the top of the mountain for data accessibility. You would have seen in the news. So these are some of the challenges. Even most advanced nations, there are another 20% of the people, they don't have even the network accessibility. So these are some of the challenges faced by, even though we speak about remote working, working from home, but these are some of the challenges we need to, from a research point of view, find out, these facilities are available or not. So we will, discuss HR challenges and other challenges, national challenges in detail in the next round.
Thank you, Mr. Vijayakumar. I think since you are the current Vice President of CIPM, you have an implicit task of exploring that research area. So on one hand, this is organized by the Standing Committee of the Applied Research Center headed by Professor Prasadhini. At the same time, you are bringing the industry perspectives and looking at diverse aspects, and you are trying to connect the education and larger livelihood aspects in the society. Thank you very much and let's explore the areas as you rightly said. So with that, in the first round, Mr. Ellepola, before I hand over the mic, I want to tell you that along with this crisis, the statutory aspects, the legal aspects and the employers aspects have come to the spotlight now. I'm sure you would be touching upon in your opening remarks on that.
Thank you very much, Dr. Samantha Rathnayake. How I would like to approach the subject is on the basis of the challenges the employers faced during this crisis. I think everyone agrees that this was an unprecedented challenge that was not only limited to a country or a region, but the whole world was grappling with this issue at the same time. So that was something very unique where the whole world was disrupted. So in that kind of a environment, the challenges were unbelievable. So with regard to the employers or the businesses, the main challenge with this disruption was sustainability and job security. Those two were issues that they were grappling with, where they simply didn't have a way of coming out of it unless you face it and also look for solutions as to how we are going to take it through. Sustainability obviously will have a direct impact on the job security of employees in the employment perspective. So there is a very direct impact on the job security. So that was something which really brought in, because job security means ultimately there is an impact on the whole society of a country. So that was something where even the state and the employers and employees all were faced with this situation. So I will take a few minutes to visit the solutions or how the employers and the governments approach this in the context of the Sri Lankan context also, which I believe was more or less similar to all over the world. So if you look at the Sri Lankan context and from the perspective of a firm level or the company level, the main objective of the companies was, first thing was to look at the workforce protection. Now, as much as people might say workforce, how are we going to protect them when we don't generate revenue? But at the same time, the companies had to look at it because one thing is there was no possibility for them to lose their skilled, knowledgeable workforce, which was a huge resource for the companies. At the same time, of course, there was a question whether they can sustain that kind of a workforce going forward. So it was a huge dilemma for the companies. But most of the companies, in order to safeguard the workforce, look towards the government with regard to the laws or how they can overcome this situation, because of the laws protect the employees, but this kind of a situation requires you to have some sort of flexibility, adjustment in the law for them to protect the employees. So they were looking towards the governments, the state, and even the unions or the employees. They realized in order to protect their jobs, we need to be flexible at this stage. So that was how everyone got together to approach this issue at that time. And I believe that was successful to a great extent in protecting jobs to a certain degree. So with that, the workforce protection, of course, in the Sri Lankan context, the Termination Act was also acted in a way because the payment of compensation also would have been a factor at this stage, because the companies didn't have that kind of resources to look at. But in order to address that, the government also stepped in, union stepped in, and of course, I think one result of it was the tripartite agreement with regard to the wage, I believe, which helped the private sector actually to safeguard and protect the jobs of certain employees. Of course, they had to sacrifice their salary, but that was I think, kind of a situation where they had to compromise in order to safeguard the jobs. Either party had to sacrifice some of their the resources they used to get. So, but I believe to a great extent that was a successful success story. Along with that, so that is with regard to job protection. Along with that, the employers promoted work from home. Now, trying to promote work from home to address the issue, because you need to sustain and somehow keep it afloat. Again, the legal side, when you are working from home, what are the legal issues that come? Employers had to look at that. The working hours, whether you can, so the guidance employers required in relation to how they should be guided, whether the laws will be applicable, how it is applicable, what are the safeguards they need to have, occupational and safety issues at home. So all these things they were grappling with, and as an employers organization, we had to guide them and we had to give them advice as to how they should set up. So certainly, of course, there's no question about it that you need to fall in line with the law wherever your workplace is, but they also required some sort of flexibility here also with regard to overcome this situation. So that was another challenge as to how they should, and of course the working hours was an issue. Even from when you're working from home, there were stories about that they are being exploited. Some of the employees, whether they are going beyond the normal working hours and all that. So, but of course, as responsible employers, they were guided to fall in line with the requirements of the law of the country. So that was another matter that I want to highlight. Then, of course, this work from home, for certain sectors, it was working, like the ICT, insurance, finance, it was working. But for the agriculture, manufacturing, fishing, forestry, accommodation, that kind of industries, work from home did not work well for them because it was not practical for them to engage in them. Also, the wage subsidies, which I mentioned earlier, or co-funding of wages was something that the employers were looking at. Then income support for low-income earners was something, because the low-income earners, there was kind of, in the Sri Lankan context, if you look at, they engage in various other self-employment in work, so that they can in some way cushion their living standards with low income that they get through employment. Now that was seriously affected. because they didn't have that self-employment opportunity any longer. So that was something that they had to look at, and the state intervention was required. Then, of course, the promote of digitization was also came along with this. The government level responses, as we know, the labor market related policy interventions, we requested the government to come in. So facilitate and promoting work from home, flexi working hours, and so on. And of course, the less government intervention on salary and other payments, where sometimes the allowances was an issue. Because where you are trying to even finding it difficult to pay the salary, then comes the allowances. So there we had to get the government intervention to look at some sort of flexibility and some sort of understanding with the employees to come to some sort of a agreement. So that kind of approach from the government we requested, and that was then granting permission to delay contributions for EPF and ETF. For the legal requirement is you can't delay it beyond 30 days. So that kind of interventions was required by the government, and now actually even right now up to June, there is the government has given that permission to delay those payments. So the legal side of those had to, so we had to, in general, if I look at it, in general, the legal rigidities was an impediment for us to overcome this situation. So the state and the unions and the employees and the employers had to get together in a situation like this, work together to overcome this situation. And that was the approach we had to take even with regard to overcoming the legal impediments or the rigidities.
Thank you, Mr. Ellepola. So you have highlighted very clearly the sustainability and the job security aspect, while highlighting these rigidities into the flexibility, or rather we call policy opening, policy shifts required, and you have touched upon a wide range of the current responses. So, well, ladies and gentlemen, I think we have set a very good opening along with the four panelists, and they have very clearly set the response recovery, and in line with, we are very much looking forward to explore the area of thriving aspect. But at the same time, as far as this discussion is concerned, we have come to the final, the second part, the last 30 minutes. In that sense, the Symposium committee has opening for you to raise one or two questions. Of course, technical team has given me access here. So if you are very much concerned about bringing some one or two specific questions, of course, please share with the technical team. They will that will pass to me. Dear gentlemen, now as far as the symposium is concerned, from a research point of view, this is very much backed by so much of insights from multiple research which you are going to see in the afternoon. But from a study point of view, as far as topic is concerned, global crisis and the future of work, as Mr. Vijayakumar also highlighted that the global reports such as World Economic Forum, McKinsey, you name it, the Dubai strategy paper, the MIT, in terms of the Deloitte papers, the PricewaterhouseCoopers paper, and from Sri Lanka, some of the economic, economic state of economies, that IPS documents, they all have given a lot of insights. Now, in the second round, before we look at the thriving aspect and the future aspect of what you have raised, since this is a research symposium, I would like to raise a quick question from the four panelists from their respective areas. I'm not following a sequential order, but Professor, may I ask from you, Professor Dharmasiri, now in your doctoral studies, you have looked at the HR at the top or at the top. So can you link those learning into the current context? From a research point of view, do you think that those currencies are still valid, like your findings are relevant to the research, the current context? Would you like quick? Yes.
I think Dr. Samanth, you are absolutely right, because the crisis demanded HR professionals to come to the forefront, and the realization of people factor. Some of the CEOs who were overly concerned about making money, neglecting the people factor, they had to sadly realize that people are important, and the emergence of employee well-being as a critical success factor for any organization. I think that's a great plus point for HR professionals. So now the CEOs have to talk to HR professionals. They have to work with HR, because employee well-being is the primary important thing, because lives matter more than the livelihoods. People first, economy next. So that message came very strongly, globally, regionally, locally. so that the rising recognition of people factor was a good impetus for human resource professionals from a non-strategic point of view to a strategic point of view to come forward to contribute strategically, crafting the right set of strategies, executing the right set of strategies. I think that is a huge opportunity for HR professionals to thrive, survive, and to add value.
Wonderful. Professor Dharmasiri, with that, Dr. Samitha, now in your doctoral areas, you have been keep on telling at many fora, this competency matter and the demand of the competencies to the forefront. I think it has, what is your take on the current context?
Dr. Sama, I think I really experienced the outcome of my research in practice in current world, you know. My research was how HR competencies of CEOs and impacting his performance and the organization performance in manufacturing environment. So I think it really fits in here. The CEOs, my outcome was CEOs who have got the HR competencies. I'm not talking about the qualification though, right? You know, qualification and the competencies is two different things, right? Talking about the HR competencies of CEOs has really helped the organizations to grow. Because you're really, yes, you're looking for your strategy, your financial acumen, your marketing perspectives, your sales perspective, your supply chain perspective, all are there, right? And those are all competencies that you require, driven by the other function set. So in this scenario, I would say really, it's as I said earlier, internally it's a people issue. And people can't work, you know, they can't execute, right? And the market, of course, you know, consumers can't reach and afford is another perspective. So internally, CEOs who can understand the people factors and along with the business strategy, right? I'm sure, and it has really helped. And personally, it has helped me. Like, you know, I have seen the thinking of myself towards people, and then it's not the sympathy. I would say, wrong. Don't take wrongly when you say HR. It's a sympathize. No. And then HR is always about how do you really get your resources to really support your business and then get your value chain pie up and then benefit on that. And so that context, knowing HR, like, you know, having HR sense along with the business strategy is surely it has helped the current CEOs on that.
Thank you very much.
This is I would say my outcome is in action.
Yeah, so that you see the greater connection. With that, Mr. Vijayakumar, you are representing CIPM, you are the current vice president. From a response recovery point of view, in this current crisis, how is the CIPM response and what is your take on in brief?
Okay, CIPM response on the current recovery process.
Yeah.
Say CIPM response is, you know, to educate and create awareness the HR professionals how to face the challenges. You know, I think challenges were mentioned by the other panelists. You know, how do we, look at, for example, look at the job descriptions. See, at current context, job description changes. There is no, say this is set job description because you have to face a crisis. You have to, earn money, the revenue. So, for example, from my industry, our senior management team went and delivered food. So there is there is no sort of ego, there's no limits or whatever. So, CIPM's role is to create awareness how do we work from, the remote working, rather remote working. It may be as one of the panelists said, some of the industries, you can't have remote working. Then we go for a hybrid working model. Some people go to office, some people work from home. So how CIPM can promote hybrid working model? Actually, now, most recently we had a joint seminar with SLIM, the Sri Lanka Institute of Marketing, and CIPM to create national awareness on hybrid working model. So CIPM role is to educate, create awareness among the HR professionals, also the other professionals. How do we face these challenges in the future? In terms about, I think we can later discuss in terms of reskilling, upskilling or reskilling, which is very, very important. So how CIPM can involved in reskilling and, the jobs which will go obsolete in time to come with AI, like, the data entry operators or the accountants or the cashiers, etc. So how do we reskill them to, become more AI based, resources? Okay.
Thank you. Nice to hear those. Mr. Ellepola, in this quick question, as far as you are representing the EFC, the multiple organizations point of view, actually, what is the readiness level when you are seeing in overall?
That's a very good question, Samantha. This actually exposed all of us. The state, employers and workers, everyone. One thing we realized was that in a situation like this, to give an example, we didn't have a system or mechanism to address unemployment issues. We don't have a social security system to look at unemployment, temporary unemployment situations to because it is a situation where the employers also can't bear that burden. And then how are we going to then address? So this opened a kind of a whole exposed the whole the area where we are lacking in. The state intervention, the employers, all we realize that in a situation like this, in order for the businesses also to continue and sustain themselves, we need some sort of backing. So in that context, of course, the developed world, they have the unemployment benefits, they have also social security systems, and also the state can fund. Now, if you look at some of the countries during that time, the developed world, the economies, from their state resources, they paid salaries, a certain percentage of the employees' salaries, and then the unemployment benefit mechanisms are there. So that exposed us to a situation where are we? What are we going to do? Or in the future, at least should we have mechanisms? So in that context, actually, as EFC, what we did was we did a study with regard to the current social security system and whether we need to reposition that in order to address what is our return on investment. Can we have a better mechanism to cover situations like this? So that is the kind of proactive steps that we are taking with the involvement of the government. We are hoping to discuss those findings with the government and other stakeholders, the unions, everyone, and at least bring in some sort of kind of structure for the future for us to face and address this kind of issues.
I'm sure in our final round, you can share a few insights out of that in this forum. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the most vital part in our discussion. That is the future aspect. Yes, we listened to all these panelists in terms of the response and recovery, but I'm sure the audience is looking for the future aspects, thriving aspects. In that light, the couple of questions, if you look at what they have said, asking about the culture, the readiness, the working from home, work-life balance, the well-being, the productivity of employees, and the employer's readiness, and managing these current challenges and the expectations. So all these questions are centrally discussing about these aspects. In that light, now I would say is the most important thing as far as discussion is concerned. The audience is looking at from these four gentlemen of yes, how to seize, how to address. So once again, back to Professor Dharmasiri in order. Now, Professor, in this, can you give a couple of key insights, or the foresights rather, how to seize, how to address, getting ready for the future? Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Samatha. I think the primary thing we need to keep in mind is future is different to the past. So past success will not guarantee future success. So future belongs to those who create. So we have to create that new future by showing the resilience and having the revival. I think that's where this selected theme is very, very critical. And so let me thank Professor Prasadhini and the team for selecting such a timely topic for this research symposium. So I would say the new learning, the new way of learning, the new approach to learning is very simple. They call it ATWD. Anytime, anywhere, any device. That is the future. So there's no standard, structured, stereotype classroom approach. Anytime, anywhere, any device. That is where we need to gear towards. So technology will play a critical role. So it has to be a tech-savvy approach. But at the same time, some of the psychological issues that we see in the current online way of learning, teaching, and so on, we see a lot of fatigue factor on one side, and we see a lot of monotony on the other side. So there has to be variety, there has to be creativity, there has to be gaming and other interesting creative way of making the technology-driven learning less monotonous and more enjoyable. So anytime, anywhere, any device is one key mindset shift that we need to have. So it is not the conventional learning, it is the non-conventional learning. I saw a recent research report where they have seen a huge rise in the demand for online MBA around the globe. So it's basically even increasingly expanding the rise of people enrolling in online MBA. So I see this with a cautionary view, because on one side, you have greater access to learning, but at the same time, what about assurance of quality, the standard, the rigor, the relevance that we need to maintain? So there are challenges coming on one. Say on one side you get prospects, on the other side you get problems. So I think future is going to be more and more complex. So my simple take from all these scenarios that we see around us is that we need to show confidence in our approach and competence in action. So confidence, competence, combination will make the future better.
Anytime, anywhere, any device. Thank you, Rohit. I think that's a wonderful thing. Dr. Samitha, the stage is very clear. Audience is looking for what are the key messages to get ready for the future.
I think I'll bet on with the professor's remarks on that. So surely the future is not the past. Like, it differ country to country, industry to industry, and the profession that you are in. So I select HR as the audience here today. And so if you look at it, the HR profession is going to change because your business strategy is going to change in the future. And so hence that when you really want to support a business strategy, so your role of HR, and earlier would have been like, how do you craft policies and procedures in a more conducive manner to really get your strategy up or execute, probably would have been a role for you. But the elements have been now in a different environment, right? So how do you really get your skills up on that? How do you really see your future and your contribution, what you can make in that scenario is a key question. There are enough research reports, like, Harvard is there, research, Boston Group is there, McKinsey is there, right? PwC has done it, EY has done it. I mean, a lot of research papers are there for us to understand what's the future going to be. COVID is not going to be over. Probably like, you'll have another pandemic in this similar kind of, you're talking about Delta and all the other variances now, right? So this is not going to be over. This is going to be the future. And so this is a readiness what matters for you, like how do you do that? So how do you do it now? See, it's not that you acquiring the qualifications only. And I always keep in this example, like, let's say a driver, having driving license doesn't mean that he can drive a vehicle. No, it's not getting the license, and it's getting your competency is right. So if you have the same example, like, when you see a bumpy road in another miles distance, or like, you have a disturbance in your road, and you must have the skills to really, how do you get your vehicle up? So that's a kind of a competency that you need to really develop for your future. But you got to do it now. And that professor was taking at anywhere, anytime, at any device, right? No, I mean, you are learning for future. It is in you. Organizations, I don't think that can help too much. They are busy on getting your strategy right. And, resources are really, really descaling now at this moment. And so your responsibility to survive in this kind of environment is up to you. And then don't wait for organization will pay 50%, therefore I'm going to stay home. And that's a worst scenario. And this country cannot stop, And if you stop, we will go worse. So what you need to, as HR profession, what you need to do is, how do you create your mindset of your people? Be safe and contribute your valuation of your organization. And governments can't help on that. They can help, like as my UFC colleagues are talking about, they are creating the right platforms, delaying your payments, delaying your statutory payments, all been sitting up there, but you got to use it now. And yes, you delay your payments and you still on the same place, not creating value, you will have the same problem in the 5 months time. So you have to use this environment which supporting elements that giving us and get your people mindset right. So HR is shifting from a traditional, like, managing performance, breaking the performance appraisals, and you're getting your rewards strategy right, getting your other activities, those shifting on that. So it's a outside in. And Professor Ulrich recently has given the 6 dimensions of new HR. Read those things. And sometimes, you can really spell it out. You can really apply that in a current environment and reshape yourself. And that's what you should do as HR profession. And rather crying and say, look here, and we can't work, and then our employees are starving, and we don't have employment. I mean, see, look at the innovative ways of really manage this, survive yourself. And I'm sure if you have that thinking for yourself first, before you try to do it for others, and you have to do that for yourself as HR. I mean, no point that you try to lead somebody unless that you lead yourself. And so that's my message for all HR professions.
Wonderful. I think getting the outside in perspective very clearly, then respond and craft it the way you want. And particularly we're highlighting that the pandemic is a testing imperative for us to look forward in whatever the form. Mr. Vijayakumar, now earlier you have responded very positively from CIPM and industry point of view. So what is your key message to the future of your readiness in terms of the messages? Yes.
Yeah, for the future, I think one of the research reports said, McKinsey, I think World Economic Forum, whatever, in most advanced nations, there is 85 million jobs will go obsolete, and 92 million new jobs will be created. So what do we take from that? So there are a lot of upskilling required for people to become more IT savvy, more, should be able to use more artificial intelligence. So how do we do that? Can only companies do that? Or organizations do that? It is a Herculean task. Or what is the government support you require? Through tertiary education, etc. How do we upskill these people? That is #1 priority for the future. Also, from the CIPM point of view or the HR professional point of view, how do we, train, upskill the human resources who are currently doing more people proximity jobs to say, look at a cashier. A cashier can become the money is collected via, customers can pay the money through the cards, etc. So you wouldn't do the cashier. How do we change the cashier's career to a delivery specialist? So you need to look at different career paths for people. Looking at the new, new job role. So those are some of the challenges we need to look at: the new career paths, new kind of jobs. How do we upskill them? How to reskill them? So those are some of the challenges for the future. All the HR professionals, also, but from the government point of view as well, stated to spend money. Also the data availability or the network facility, not only in Sri Lanka, worldwide. I think you got to subsidize, use satellite facility or whatever, you have to give ample data for people to become more data savvy. So those are the my key messages for the future. We need to look at very strongly.
So, Mr. Vijayakumar, in essence, you are saying that the new demands for jobs come so that the new shapes of the skills requirements, so that I think CIPM can play a major role in that sense.
Of course.
Mr. Ellepola, coming back to this futuristic point of view, I'm sure one question also I would like to highlight that very much questions have raised about this work from home and the new legal shapes. I'm sure you have mentioned about that lot of policy readiness within this context. What you can share to the audience? They are very much eager on that.
I think all of us, we realize that the impact of this COVID will not subside in the near future. So we have to be ready and continue with this and adjust and innovate our businesses in a new way as to how we should continue and face this task. So there's no looking back and saying we will wait. So we need to go forward with these challenges. So how do we approach with this? We need to then see how the future is going to be with this kind of challenge being there. So there will have to be a greater transformation of the working environment in order to face this, because with this kind of pandemic being there, we'll have to transform our working environment to somehow continue with our businesses. So in this context, we see 3 areas that definitely that there will be new transformation in 3 areas in the business world and the world of work. The first thing that I would like to highlight is the remote work and virtual interactions. So the remote work will not be now, before the pandemic, it was at a very low level. During the pandemic, it reached a higher level, but once or when it subsides, it will not be at that higher level, but it will be lower, but certainly it will be higher than what it was at the very beginning. That is, I believe, will be the kind of the prediction that they will be looking, because although the opportunity is there for remote work, I think the human factor, the human beings also want some sort of interaction, the teamwork, those aspects also are required in a working environment. So you can't have a kind of a system where you can totally be in a situation where you will be working in a remote kind of environment. But of course, there will be a blend of that going forward in a much higher degree than what it was at the very beginning. So that is what one thing. Then the e-commerce and digital transactions. There will be definitely, it has developed e-commerce and digital transactions during this period, and it will stay in the future. So there will be, so the jobs will be, as Mr. Jayakumar mentioned, the skilling, reskilling in these areas will be a requirement. The employees will have to reskill themselves, and the skills in these areas will be required in the future for us to look at these developments that are going to take place. Then development of automation and artificial intelligence will be there going forward, and that will be another area, the trend that will come in the future. The workers at the low end, we feel that the workers at the low end and with less skill will be the most vulnerable. So unless you reskill yourself and then adapt yourself, that vulnerability will remain, and that will be a challenge. But of course, the people at the higher end, the people knowledge with knowledge and the skills will take, those people will have more advantage and opportunities in the new world of work. So in this context, rethinking by businesses as to where and how work is done, new ways of hiring, training, redeploying, all that will be the topics or the subjects that we'll have to keep on discussing and be innovative. Just one example I just wanted to discuss or just bring out now is when this issue was taking place, one organization already, they asked in the future, they are looking at a workplace where they will have a blend of working from home and reporting to office. So in that context, now they say in the future, they will not have a particular workstation for an individual. Because that person will be, so if everyone is coming to work, you will need a larger area because you report to work every day. But if a certain percentage are working from home, then the percentage that comes to office is only a lesser number. So in that context, how do we design our work area, the office? So they are contemplating of a kind of a work without having workstations to individuals, because that will give you more space and waste of space. They are going to have a kind of a office space where anyone can walk in and then you can fit in to plug into any workstation and work and go home. So that is the kind of future that we will see, or the changes in the working environment, offices and development that will take place, we believe, and that innovation will be required fast for us to adapt to this kind of a situation. Of course, along with that, the policymakers will also have to step in. Policymakers don't step in expanding digital infrastructure in the country, enabling more labor market flexibility, for removing barriers for worker mobility, reskilling, upskilling, workers facing job transition. So those flexibilities will be required from the policymakers that we are looking at. And of course, the facilitating the gig economy and platform economy. Now, when platform economy or gig economy is coming, I think what we need to do as a country is let that develop in this country. If we bring in rigidities and try to first let it develop, then we can look at the laws and whatever the safeguards that we need to bring in to protect them. Certainly, yes, we do need to protect the employees and their rights and all. But first, we need to let it develop, let the business develop, let that environment be created. That is how the developed world worked initially. So I think that lesson we need to take it forward. If we are to go forward as a country and as a nation, we need to allow or create that environment for businesses to create, rather than trying to suppress it, bring in rigidities, and that will certainly not give any kind of encouragement for the businesses to go forward. So that's the kind of future I see, and for the work, and I think that is where we have to, all of us will have to get together to promote and take it forward.
Thank you very much. I think in essence, we need a lot of policy trade-offs. That's what you are highlighting. So along with that, dear gentlemen, I want to say that this is an intriguing topic, as I said at the inception, but the challenge is the time. So all these questions, most of the areas we have addressed. So we have come to the last 4 minutes, may I say. In your final round, probably just 1 minute, but you may very briefly address your final thoughts, apart from all what we have said. But Professor Dharmasiri, you can touch upon a bit of engagement aspect also in the futuristic point of view in your final remarks.
Okay, I would say human resource professionals have to be holistically revived professionals. You can't confine to the human resource function. You have to look at the big picture. You have to be much broader in looking at the broad horizon. So that is the message for human resource professionals. You have to be holistic, humble, and of course, humane as usual. And then, as you said, the engagement aspect, physical, mental, emotional dimensions, how to ensure in a virtual team. Now, in a physically located team, it's easy because you see the feel factor is there. Now, the challenge is to develop trust without touch. So that's a huge challenge. You need to have interactions using social media, variety of technology platform, not just formal, but becoming informal. And I have seen some HR professionals having virtual boozers. Occasionally that will help. So some kind of that informality has to be built in, because if you have a typical meeting, Dr. Samantha, we have a chit chat over a Kit Kat. We have some gossip, and sometimes the government bashing, the president bashing, they have become the national habits. So you need that relaxation in the middle of a serious conversation. So with technology, with Zoom meetings, otherwise it will be just a doom, not a boom. So we need to have that balance between formality and informality, the balance between seriousness and fun-loving nature. So that is the typical complex human beings, how they behave. So we need to recognize people, we need to relate people's requirements, and we need to achieve results as holistically revived profession.
Thank you very much, Professor Dharmasiri. Dr. Samitha, in your final remarks, while you're addressing your final thoughts, one question highlighted that if you can share one practice or a tip about how to respond to outside in approach through inside out.
Thanks, Dr. Samantha. as I said earlier, like the current situation could be a opportunity driven or a survival mode, right? As a business. So then once you craft your strategy as a business together as a senior team, this is our strategy to really capture the opportunity, or this is our strategy to really survive in this game. That has to be done. Otherwise, your employees will be really lost in their game, right? Once you get your strategy, then you will have a model to operate. And this is a model that we need to operate. So you're starting from your market. This is how you're going to operate. And then comes your business model. This is what that business need to be done. And then you come down to the straight of what kind of a structure that we want, what kind of resources that we want really allocate for this, and I need that. And along with that, when you say resources, that how capable these resources are for the new model that we are going to operate. So that could be AI, like you are talking about very much predictive driven kind of a scenario. Could be a blockchain approaches and many more, like probably you totally automate your process. An example that you may not have your traditional channels of distribution, you may go for online kind of stuff, or you have another way of door-to-day stuff, right? Door-to-door stuff. I mean, this start from the market. And the market, I would say, the understanding the market, your business strategy, like as per the Porters, if I bring the theory here, you have whether you're going to be your cost driven or value for money or your niche, right? And are you going to be really gourmet situations like customize your products, right? There are opportunities. I would say people are not fed up in food industry, have a standardized product. They would probably go for a very much customized. I have a wedding, or I have a really lunch at home. I like to get this menu done. So it's becoming customized. Your industry is changing. So then your business model, strategy and the business model, and the people to drive it, and your capability to get it. So of course, then all other jargon we are talking will come into play.
Thank you very much. I think you have covered very well. Thank you very much. Mr. Vijayakumar, from a future point of view, what is your take-home message? Now you have highlighted that reskilling and so on. So you can highlight, because there's a question about that, how to do that, what is the starting point and so on. So you may touch upon in your final.
Yeah, the starting point for reskilling to identify as per each company requirement, each organizational requirement, what jobs is going outdated or what jobs will be sort of obsolete, what will be the new role they be taking over. So as per that, you identify the need, then you have planned to reskill. Also in the national level, if you look at CIPM, also we need to offer new programs such as AI use in HR, use of AI in HR, or robotic automation process. How do we implement? So to become, they become entrepreneur. Now, one of the panelists was speaking about gig economy. Now, how the millennials, they come out with, how do they contribute? They'll create a mobile app or a intervention. Even we could reskill the millennials or anyone. They could be able to do a job by being in Sri Lanka, offering a job in any other part of the world. So we need to make those people IT savvy. So that's the reskilling I'm talking about. How do we sort of, globally they contribute, wherever location they are stay, whatever location they will be there, but so that gig economy will also require reskilling and upskilling. So the starting point is, one is from the organizational point of view, identify the needs in keeping with the organizational objectives and the strategy. From a national point of view, how the government should look at the education system, how do we take this reskilling and upskilling, etc.
Thank you, Mr. Vijayakumar. Going back to your thoughts from an HR professional's point of view, Mr. Ellepola, what are the key critical points which you would like to highlight apart from all what you have said?
I think the HR and also the employment whole gamut of it ultimately hinges on the country's policies and the adaptive, how fast we can adapt to the current situation. So in relation to policies, I think there are certain things that we need to urgently address. in the current context. If we are looking at the next, with this COVID, the future of work, we have tried to promote certain legislative policy changes like flexible working hours, remote working in relation to remote working, leave holiday, and that kind of new, if you look at the other countries, Singapore or Malaysia, those countries, they have developed to accommodate that kind of flexibility that is required for part-time work and flexible work arrangements. So along with these technological developments that are taking place, we need to adapt ourselves and quickly come up with those changes if we are to be competitive in the region and also in the world. So that will help the HR aspect of every organization for them to face this challenge and take it forward. But otherwise, it will be quite, although we might devise our HR policies and mechanisms, that has to be supported with the policies and the legal framework of the country. So I believe that kind of holistic approach is required for us to go forward and be competitive in the world and also especially in the region. And that is the only way that I believe we can go forward in challenging these times. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hats off to the four panelists. I'm sure, as I said at the inception, this topic, the intriguing nature is not ending. They keep on exploring. I'm sure they have added a lot of the colors and insights for you to look around and keep on looking this topic, the global crisis, more than that, the future of work. While thanking the organizing committee, standing committee chair, the conference chair, Professor Prasadhini, and the team. So while thanking to the four panelists, let's go back to the MC. Over to you, Sarah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Samantha Rathnayake, for our moderator, and to all our viewers who have been staying tuned for a very long time. We appreciate, we are very proud with the numbers that have been staying tuned right throughout. And we are about to conclude the panel discussion. But before that, I'd like to invite the chairperson of the 5th CIPM International Research Symposium, Professor in Human Resource Management, University of Kelaniya, Sri Lanka, Professor Prasadhini Gamage, to present a token of appreciation to our panelists and our moderator. First, we'd like to recognize Professor Ajantha Dharmasiri. Next, we'd like to invite Dr. Samitha Perera. Dr. Samitha Perera. And to our panelists, Mr. Ken Vijayakumar. Our panelist, Mr. Vajira Ellepola. And our fantastic moderator here, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Samantha Rathnayake. Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Professor Prasadhini Gamage. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where we conclude the panel discussion, and the time now is 12:30. Following now will be the track coordinators, where each track will be introduced by their session chairs. We'd like to invite the presenters of the relevant technical sessions or track changes to click on the right meeting room and then follow through. And to the rest of the viewers, we invite you to join us at 3 o'clock, 3:15 for the case study session, which will take place where we'll also which will be followed by the valedictory message of choosing the best paper and the best presenter winner, which will all be coming up today at the 5th CIPM International Research Symposium on HRM 2021. Have a great lunch. We'll see you soon.